Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. We'll call to order tonight's council meeting for April 16th, 2019. May I have roll call, please?
Mayor Harris,
Here.
Vice Mayor Cardoza,
Here.
Councilmember Boomgarden,
Here.
Councilmember Espandola,
Here.
Councilmember Shaw.
Here.
All right. We may have what? May we have a report from closed session, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were no reportable actions taken in closed session.
Thank you very much. We stand for Pledge of Allegiance, led by Vice Mayor Cardoza.
Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Remain standing for invocation by George Barlow. Thank you, George.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this time that we can come together, Father, in a humble way as servants. And Father, we just pray for those officers, firemen, Father, those that serve us each and every day, put themselves in harm's way. Father, we pray for our council tonight as the decisions that they make. Father, that we represent this city well in service for you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. A little bit of housekeeping. We're going to have item number 12 at the request of Finance Department is going to be removed from the agenda, as will item number 13A. We're moving on to item number 1, Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. Is Marcia Krause-Taylor out there? There she is, right there. All right. 1 second here. Come on over here. How you doing, Marcia? Pleasure to see you. You too. All right. Definitely, of course, unfortunate that we are doing so. However, we are going to raise awareness of the problem of child abuse. We have it's going to be presented to Marcia Krause-Taylor from Casa de Esperanza. The tragedy of child abuse and neglect affects every community in California and touches the lives of far too many citizens, regardless of cultural, ethnic, religious, or socio-economic level. If our children are to become productive adults, they should have the right to a childhood free of neglect, physical abuse, sexual molestation, and exploitation. Early identification and intervention are essential to successfully interrupting the generational cycle of abuse and neglect. Collaboration among professionals, concerned parents, volunteers, and policymakers can help to reduce the level of child abuse and neglect in our communities, and the observance of the Child Abuse Prevention Month provides an excellent opportunity for all citizens to reflect on this tragic crime, while rededicating themselves to taking an active role in child abuse prevention activities in their community. So now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Sean Harris, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, and on behalf of the entire City Council, up here right with me right now, do hereby proclaim April 2019 as Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month in the City of Yuba City, and encourages all residents to join with local community efforts in making sure that every child has the right to grow up in a stable, loving environment free from abuse and neglect. Thank you very much. This is for you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this from the Yuba City Council. When we first started doing this over 25 years ago, we didn't talk a lot about child abuse. Our community's come a long ways. And we always appreciate very much the opportunity to bring it into the forefront again and to realize that if we're going to end child abuse, we actually must be working toward prevention of it. So Blue Ribbon is what we're all about. You've seen blue ribbons on the 5th Street Bridge. Some people are wearing their blue ribbons. Please just remember, and in your prayers and your thoughts, those children and their parents who are trying to become survivors of this. And remember that prevention is the key. So thank you.
Thank you, Marcia. All right, John Sambrook. Proclamation for as Planning Commissioner. Good to see you again.
Oh my gosh. I hope it's not going to be too lengthy, huh? All the whereases.
We're going to give you a taste of your own medicine if that's the case. All right, so please welcome John Sambrook. Is it now former commissioner? You've stepped down already, haven't you?
Yeah, I have.
All right. Whereas John was first appointed by Sutter County to serve on the Yuba City Planning Commission on February 21st, 2006, and served diligently until February 28th, 2019. And Mr. Sambrook learned as much as possible about the job of Sutter County representative on the City of Yuba City Planning Commission and quickly became an important voice on the commission. He participated with the Planning Commission to make decisions and recommendations in his best interest of all the citizens of Yuba City, and his leadership, dedication, professionalism, and commitment on the commission were invaluable to the improvement of the city. And I got to tell you, as a former commissioner, John was always, every packet we had was thoroughly dog-eared and highlighted and twisted around, and you can tell he did his homework a lot. So this is very well deserved, John. We appreciate your service. So now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Sean Harris, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, on behalf of our entire City Council, hereby commend John Sambrook for his outstanding dedication to the Planning Commission and all of his contributions to the Yuba City community. 16th of April, 2019. Would like to say a few words.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, it's been an honor and a privilege to have served on the commission. I've enjoyed the time I've spent. It's been a challenge, it really has. But without the support, backing, and the endorsement and encouragement by the city councils over the years, I would not have lasted as long as I have. And if I hold the distinction of being the longest serving member on the Planning Commission in the history and annals of the city of Yuba City, it's only that distinction belongs to the council because you made it happen. So I appreciate this endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Good to see you. Thank you, Grace.
All right. Going on to number 3, we have a presentation by the Yuba City Economic Development Corporation. Welcome, Brenda Stranix.
Thank you, Mayor Harris.
You're welcome.
Brenda Stranix, Yuba City Economic Development Corporation. I want to thank you, Mayor, as well as the council for allowing me to present tonight. It was a nice invitation, and I certainly appreciate the ability to be here this evening. Is there Perfect. Thank you. So, who we are? We're a private nonprofit established in 1994 by jurisdictional support from all of the local jurisdictions, meaning both the county of Yuba and Sutter and the 4 cities, Wheatland, Live Oak, Marysville, and the city of Yuba City. Our forefathers, I was not with the organization at the time, but in 1996 had the foresight to apply for and receive designation as an economic development district through the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration. You'll hear more about why that's important in a minute. We're governed by a board of directors consisting of both private and public sector folks, a mighty staff of 4, and we provide regional economic development services to the region. So what do we really do? We kind of have 4 pillars of business, as we like to call it. Business creation and attraction, business expansion and retention, We have a business lending program, and we do infrastructure enhancement. So I'm going to take a minute to brag on us a little bit, especially when it comes to the business creation and attraction. We've been told by Greater Sacramento Economic Development Council that we are the only organization within their service region that submits complete responses to RFP packages. That's really something to hear when we're working against much larger organizations with many more resources than we have. That is something that is really something that we're pretty proud of. In addition to that, we have provided data that has moved projects ahead by years. For example, the Buffalo Wild Wings that was placed in the shopping center over here by Walmart. The developer came to us and said, "Hey, do you have some data that I can put in this package? I'm trying to get these people to move forward." So we provided the retail leakage that we have available to us, and I'm told, it actually moved that single project ahead by 6 years. So there's some of the things that we like to brag about. So who we serve the counties of Sutter and Yuba, and then the cities of Live Oak, Marysville, and Wheatland, and we serve all the regional businesses without regard to jurisdictional support. I'm going to brag a little more. We have a loan program, and regionally, meaning within the 2 counties and the 4 cities, we have made 178 loans totaling nearly $14 million, and that's leveraged another about $104 million in investment, created 709 jobs, retained 600 others, and that was assisting 79 startups. We stop tracking the job creation once they have fulfilled their obligation to the loan. That being said, in the city of Yuba City alone, we have created or made 66 loans totaling about $7 million, leveraging about $26 million investments. Yuba City businesses constitute about 50% of all of our lending activity over the program life from a financial perspective. Average loans are about $105,000. Some are much higher, some are lower. So you might recognize some of these folks. These are folks in your city that the city of Yuba City has, that have been provided loans through the Yuba Center Economic Development Corporation. This is just a few out of 66. So I talked a little bit about the importance of the Economic Development District. In that comes a responsibility for us to provide a comprehensive economic development strategy. And that strategy prioritizes public works projects and as well as the businesses' interest in economic development goals. The committee consists of public sector as well as representatives from the region's industries. It's updated annually and complete rewrite every 5 years. So we'll be doing that again in 2020. Makes it an opportune time if the city of Yuba City has an interest in being included in that document. With inclusion in that document, once approved by the jurisdictions participating, as well as the EDA's final approval on an annual basis, the projects that are listed in the document are given priority funding by EDA, specifically public works projects. So roads, water, sewer, wastewater, those kinds of things. Business retention and expansion. That's a big part of what we do. You all know that about 80% of all job growth actually comes from our existing businesses. We always get a big front page splash when In-N-Out Burger is opened, but really this is the core of where our jobs come from. So in order to touch base and stay connected to our business community, we perform business walks on an annual basis. We host business resource seminars. We manage the Yuba Center Business Consortium. We assemble as needed industry-specific industries, for example, a manufacturers association or a healthcare council, those kinds of things, and have participated on those for decades. And then, of course, we work one-on-one with businesses based on their need. So providing financial support to the local jurisdictions. We do grant writing, research, and management. A couple of examples I want to talk about. The taxiway project at the Yuba County Airport is a $1.2 million project. We were able to secure a grant for about $927,000 of that 1.2. It's going to create about 150 jobs, that one project. Another example of that is a manufacturer needed a upgrade in their wastewater treatment line, or their waste line, conveyance line. $2.2 million project. We were actually able to secure $1.8 million in federal dollars to support that. And that was 400 jobs. Unfortunately, the project went sideways, but nonetheless, we were successful in securing the funds. Yuba County Administrator Robert Bendorf and the County Board of Soup said that one grant actually provides enough offset funding for them to support us for 34 years, to give you some perspective. So we're very proud of the work that we do there. So some program income waiver projects. Through the years, we administered on behalf of the local jurisdictions their CDBG program specific to business lending. The city of Yuba City was a part of that. We were able to build large pots of program income when those loans revolved. And then that money could be used through a waiver process at the state for infrastructure. So Live Oak Police and Fire Station was remodeled using that funding, about $650,000. There's a water line in Live Oak that's crossing Pennington Road that will be used, about another $500,000. And then we were able to fund some projects around the wastewater and water project in Robbins, the community of Robbins. And then special projects. We do a lot of things. We wear a lot of hats. One example that I wanted to present was the 14 Forward project for homeless over in Yuba County. So as you all are aware, and we'll learn more about here before too long, Yuba County took a leap, right? And they just built a project. And Robert Bendorf again called me and said, hey, I need some help. We were able to secure private sector funding to pay for 100% of that original construction. The Yuba City Economic Development Corporation did. So we're good partners. We want to make sure that our communities are fiscally sound and finding other ways to fund projects. And then other stuff we do. I happen to be the executive director for the Sutter County Community Action Agency, as well as the Yuba County Community Services Commission. Both of those entities are state-funded community service block grant funds that end poverty or designed to end poverty. We're also taking the lead for both counties on the California Compete Census campaign. So we'll be out and back to you all with information about that as well. And then I participate on the Lodging Association, Homeless Consortium, Homeless Committee, California Finance Corporation, and a few others that you can see there. There's an additional list. It just wouldn't fit on the slide. So, a partnership with the EDC. I have given some serious consideration to what that might look like for the city of Yuba City. If the city is interested in only participating and becoming a member or a partner for inclusion in the CEDS document, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, it's about $25,000 annual commitment from the city. We also can provide fee-for-service work. We can contract that on a case-by-case basis with you if that's something that you're interested in. I know your city manager called the other day and needed some information for one of you council members, and we were happy to pull that up. But without some financial support, we can't always do that at no cost. But we're absolutely happy to do it. And then for $52,000 annually, we would you'd be reinstated to the district and receive additional benefits. Some of them are included here, but of course it would be negotiable on what focuses you'd like us to perform for you. So we have an available list of services. We're happy to partner in any way that you see is right for the city, or perhaps no way at all. But I appreciate your time tonight, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Brenda. Questions?
Through the mayor. Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple quick questions.
You got it.
Appreciate you outlining the fees that it would take for us to be reinstated. I guess, how long have we not been a member? Because I do recall that we used to
It's
be.
about 2008.
Okay.
There was a change from a regional perspective and a more city-centric goal by the city manager. And so there was a separation. In that time, that's when you fell out of the district.
Okay. Second question is sort of a two-part question. Is you've proposed a 25,000 and a 52. How is that fee determined? Is it based upon population?
No, it's interesting. When the organization was first formed, all of the jurisdictions provided, I think, $68,000 in support. The four bigger ones, so City of Yuba City, both counties, and the City of Marysville. Over the years, that has come down, understanding that you all have had some budgetary concerns and problems, especially during the late 2008, 9, 10. Sutter County pays $52. That's their annual membership. Yuba County actually contracts with us for additional services, and our contract with them is for $88 and some change. We receive funding. So I guess I could explain where some of our funding comes from. 22% of our total budget comes from the local jurisdictions. The city of Live Oak, Wheatland, and Marysville pay very small amounts. They want to continue to remain committed to the SEDS project. 40% is generated through our loan program. It's a profit center for us. 15% is private sector support, so support from local businesses, national companies, etc. 10% comes from our EDA. We get a planning grant each year that allows us to do the SEDS work. And then 13% is special projects that are fee for services.
And I assume that if we decided to re-engage with your organization, then we would likely have a spot on the board for decision making?
You would. Our bylaws are written, they were recently amended to up to two board members from each jurisdiction. So in the past, there had to be two. That was a strain on some of the jurisdictions to have two board members at every board meeting. We only meet quarterly, so there's not a lot. But yes, you absolutely would have up to 2 seats on the board of directors.
You answered all my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good questions.
Through the mayor. Thank you for being here tonight. My understanding from what you told us and my understanding of your organization is we're not a part of it, but yet you take care of our businesses here in our city.
I do.
I know many of the businesses that was on that screen, and I know they've had success with your partnership. With the grant writing and the prioritization being part of the district, how much of a advantage will that help us? Because you talk about the grants.
Mhm.
We need $7 million to fix our roadways here in Yuba City. Outside of what we're currently doing, if we were to invest the full $52,000 annually to become part of the board and a member, what kind of advantage is that going to give us in seeking additional grants to take care of our city?
So I'm going to kind of back into this with some further explanation, I guess. When the EDA formed, the Economic Development Administration formed these districts, it was to help Appalachia. So, and I believe it was in the 30s or 40s. As the districts moved west of that central point, for whatever reason, they fell out of favor. Or people were not aware, or they didn't find a need or see a need, or I'm not sure what the problem was. And when I said that somebody was very insightful from our organization in the early beginning when they applied for designation, there's only 5 in the state of California, and they're all up in this North Valley area. So what that gives us is an opportunity, and I can't give you a percentage of how we're going to score higher, but because our projects are listed in an approved SEDS, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy document, They are given priority when it comes to funding. You all could write your own sets, and it would be just as eligible. So that is an option for you as well. I think at one time there was some discussion that you were going to do that, but I don't think it's been done.
Could our city manager address that, or Mr. Gale? Have we done that?
I'm going to have to defer to Mr. Gale.
Okay.
So currently, we do not, our economic development strategy would qualify for a STEDS based upon our conversations with EDA if we were applying for a grant. Since we have not yet found a grant that we need to apply for that requires a SEDS, we've not gone through the process, but we've talked with them multiple times, and they said as long as the council has adopted your economic development strategies, it's not a true comprehensive economic development strategies like the Economic Development Corporation and Brenda puts together, but they have told us, at least verbally and through emails, that our economic development strategy would qualify us for a grant. But we've since I've been at the city, I don't think we've ever applied for a grant that required an EDA grant, which requires a comprehensive economic development strategy.
Okay, follow-up question for you, Mr. Gale, is if we were to go forward with our own SEDS, what would approximately the cost be for us to actually put that formal report together that the economic committee already has?
That'd be a question for Brenda to tell you how much it costs
Okay.
for their SEDS. However, they have told us that our economic development strategy that we do have would qualify. My assumption is they haven't read it,
Right.
and that there might be additional information that we would need to include. We could come back to council with that information if you'd like, but I know Brenda could tell you exactly how much it cost her.
All right, thank you. Brenda.
So the EDA provides us $80,000 a year to manage the SEDS document.
Okay.
In the SEDS process.
Okay. Last question I have for you is, it just seems very strange that we're in, when I first was introduced to this area, it was called the hub area.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very strange that something happened around 2008 that we seem to not want to be a part of the hub area anymore. With that, you're helping the businesses. What advantage will we have as a city when our businesses are here, referring them over to you to get further assistance? Does it give them an advantage if we are a full-fledged member? Does it give us additional resources to give them versus them trying to find it on their own? I'm looking for what is the advantage for our businesses in our community.
Sure. So some experience that I've had, and I'm not to mean that every business is skeptical of government, but there is a fair number of government. We provide a liaison between your businesses and your city staff, so that if there's a complaint by a business, first of all, we vet that complaint. We just had a discussion about this not long ago in our consortium meeting. There was a complaint that it was either the city or the county, and I believe it was actually on the other side of the river, but as an example, the business was complaining about the city. The city did this, the city won't let me do that, the city, when in fact it wasn't the city at all. It was the county, or vice versa. I don't recall exactly which it was. So my message was, have them call me. I want to really understand where their issues are. Let's see if we can vet through them. Let's see if we can get them solved. Let's see if we can keep you all, staff as well as council, at arm's length from something that's negative or perceived to be negative when in fact that wasn't the case at all. So there's an example of how we can be effective. There's a lot of trust. I've been in this community my entire life, which is, like 29 now. So I have a great network of partners and know just about everybody here.
Thank you.
Through the mayor.
Yep.
Brenda, excellent presentation. I really, I learn more and more from you all every time we have an opportunity to see what you do. My question is in the loans that, just in the slide where you were talking about for the city, almost $7 million worth of loans. Now, when you're assisting some of these local businesses, as I see on Bridge Coffee, I'll just point them out because I
Uh-huh.
love their coffee. So do you connect them to the right financial institute, or how's that money coming?
So
How do you do that?
that's a perfect example. So in that particular instance, the owner needed to buy equipment, um, and buy equipment, have some marketing, working capital, that kind of thing. They came to us because they were turned down by a financial institution.
Okay.
Oftentimes, when a business is a startup, brand new business, less than 3 years old, the local financial institutions are not going to want to participate. In the example of Carl's Jr.,
Mhm.
this in particular project was their new location or newest location, the one right here on Harder or Tharp and Highway 20. They came in with funding, but they had a gap. Oftentimes banks don't want to be the only skin in the game. So they have a need to have some owner injection and or partners. So we came in on that one with a $300,000 loan and filled the gap, and it allowed their project to go forward. So they're structured in a lot of different ways. The goal is to make sure that there's adequate financing and adequate understanding by the business owner of what they're doing, how they're going to do it. We look at projections. We want all of that. And in the end, our real objective is job creation. So if there's no job created, we're not going to lend to a business.
Right. And then you also at the same time focus on the retention, right? So
Right.
that particular Bridge Coffee trying to expand, but not able to, but still retaining their existing site. So I can see all the benefits of what it's quite complex, but you make it seem so easy to what you've been doing. And so I really appreciate what you've done for our community and appreciate the presentation.
So Bridge is in an expansion
Mhm.
mode now.
Oh,
And we are
okay.
we're underwriting another loan for them currently. More than just the lending,
Yeah.
for the entire time that they have a loan with us until that loan pays off, we are mentoring. We are in their business in a good way.
Yeah.
We're watching their financials. We're guiding them. We're mentoring them. We want to make sure, number one, our loan is repaid.
Right.
Because it's our money. We borrow it and have to pay for it. But second to that, we want those businesses to succeed. So we're really in it as a partner.
Mm.
And many times after the loan has repaid, they count on us for that support as well.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yep, to the mayor. Thank you, Brenda, for the presentation. Wonderful, as always. The quick question I have for you is you commented you brought 705 jobs to the community.
Uh-huh.
And is that in your 24-year history or within the last 5 years?
That was just with the loan program.
With the loan program.
That was just through the loan program. And we only track those jobs for as long as they're in the loan.
Okay.
As long as the loan is active.
Okay.
So if, for example, Northside Fitness is probably a good example. They came in early in their stages. I think there were 2 employees. They built up to 17, 18, 19 employees and then paid off the loan with us. And at some point, they've created probably 200 jobs in the community. So we stopped tracking because we don't want to be a pest to them.
Right.
But they are obligated until their loan is paid in full to track employment with us.
Okay.
So it's a number. It's not the only number.
So it'd be individual. It's not.
I'm sorry, Manny.
So I get it right. So it's 709 new jobs for individuals, not 709 businesses in the last 25 years.
That's correct. No,
Okay,
it was
okay.
66 businesses in the city of Yuba City have had loans with Yuba Center Economic Development.
Okay. All right.
178 loans.
I was going to say 709 new jobs because that's a lot of stuff in the community. That's great. That's what I'm thinking. That'd be great. So okay. Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
And like our support for Buffalo Wild Wings, those numbers are not tracked. But I believe we were a huge piece of getting that in particular business here.
Okay.
Even though we funded their competitor.
You have more, Dave?
Yes, sir, through
Go
the
for it.
mayor. Just one quick question. I think I know the answer, but I don't want to misspeak. The average term of the loans that you give, how many years is those?
It varies depending on our funding sources. Like I said, we borrow money, so we have payback requirements to our lenders. What we look for when we make a determination on term is debt service, right? So it's important for us to not make their loan payments so high that they're not going to succeed, but we also have to be cognizant of, you know, what's realistic. Sometimes it's a year, short term, quick, you know, create a couple jobs, needs 40, 50, 60, $70,000 to buy a piece of equipment. Other times it's a much bigger project. At one point we funded, we actually had an $800,000 loan for a medical facility that I believe that one was a 20-year AM, and we always have a 5-year call. So we always will encourage them. Our hope is that they'll be bankable at the time of that call. If they're not, we continue working with them, and we'll refinance, but then we'll have another call before the term.
Okay, yeah, my experience has been between 5 and 12 years is typically the length of time. So when we're looking at the jobs created and tracking those, you're typically looking at 709 jobs over probably 5 to 9 years.
So I guess maybe I wasn't very clear. There's an expectation for every $35,000 they borrow from us, they have to create one job.
Okay.
We track until they have created their prescribed number of jobs, unless they continue wanting to track with us.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Brenda, if you could back up to the services provided on the $52,000 plan, if you will. And then we have the bottom one, economic development lead. Can you describe what that would entail?
So if you have a need to have the EDC be your economic developer, the point of contact, we're happy to do that for you. I don't know where your intention is with your own economic development program, and I didn't want to make a presumption that was your intent or interest, but if that is, we could be more than happy to do that for you.
All right, just curious. I saw it on there and thought I'd ask and see. So can you provide, have you done it for any other agencies?
We do it for all the others.
All of them.
We are their point of economic development.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Brenda.
You're
Appreciate
very
it.
welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Brenda.
Moving on to number 4, digital front door presentation by George Barlow. Welcome, George.
Mayor, council members, glad to be here tonight. My name is George Barlow. I'm an administrative analyst here at the city, and tonight I'm presenting the digital front door report. Digital front door. So a lot of questions come up each time that phrase is mentioned. So hopefully I explain it well tonight. But one of the things that you see before you is actually a product of the digital front door. I don't know if you've noticed in the last year, but the presentations that we actually give as staff, the PowerPoints that are used are developed for a purpose. That it really gives that marketing, that branding of our city, utilizing these types of PowerPoints are specifically designed for staff. Digital Front Door Committee are these members. We have a member from each department. Terrell Locke was actually the founder of the Digital Front Door Committee a few years back. So we have a well-rounded committee. We meet once a month, the last Thursday of the month, during lunch hour. Our mission, really, you can read our mission, but what I would really like to point out is that the digital front door, our mission is to enhance the digital presence in our community. But more so is really to improve our interaction with communication with our citizens. And communication is really the main fact and the main key. This word may seem Greek to you. That's because it is Greek. So, inono is really communication in Greek. Sometimes when we communicate, it can seem like Greek because it may not be in the right form, it may not be in the right fashion. And we want to make sure that we are speaking the language of our community when we do send out messages, whether it be digitally or in an ever-changing culture that we have in our digital age, whether it be our website, Facebook, social media. It is ever-changing. And the question always is, with our committee, are we changing with that culture? Our main plan is really to communicate to our citizens with what is happening in the city, whether it be economically, the growth that is occurring, or services that we provide as a city. YC311 is a great digital front door effort in regards of communication back and forth from citizens to the city. One effort was recently an ordinance was passed on shopping carts. YC311 really brings out that messaging going from citizens to the city, directly to that department. And in the ordinance case, we've seen a 60% reduction in reports of abandoned shopping carts. The other thing that we plan on doing is more surveys, really getting the pulse of citizens, understanding feedback that we receive, but more so really gauging what we can do as a city in regards to that feedback. Sometimes we miscommunicate. When we do miscommunicate, it's not good. And we get sad. Our citizens get sad and sometimes maybe even angry just because of a miscommunication. And one thing it proves is that we're humans. And we can correct that quickly by communicating in the correct fashion so that when we do communicate digitally, it really creates that fun, it creates that happiness, and also goes across that digital plane in our community. So these front doors right here, we actually receive about 800 customers average per day through these doors. This front door, this is one of our digital front doors, which is our website, has attachments to that website, which is our police website and our fire website. We actually, through Google Analytics, average where our digital front door and how it's actually used. Average 2,800 pages viewed per day and about 20% returning users. So about 2,200 new users per day. As you can see here, our homepage is the #1 hit. But actually, if you go down that list of the 10 top pages our citizens view, it really comes out to be animals and kids. So recreation is a big item, and our animal services is another big item. We see police department in there at #5. And what's amazing, this is Google Analytics from January to April 15th, is contact us. It really has never been a top 5, but in the last 4 months, it has been a top 5. So we take a look at these pages and make sure that the correct content is on these pages and the messaging is clear. This is where our users are coming from in regards of those placements of where they actually identify that URL So we can see most users are in the city of Yuba City. And then we see Sacramento, San Francisco, San Jose, so on. Those could be users that actually are working outside the area, but still tracking our website or understanding what's going on in the city by hitting our website. And it could also be people that are coming into Yuba City and really seeking additional information. Another digital door is Facebook. In 2018, January, we had 15,000 followers. As of January 15th, we have 17,000 followers. So again, our reach in regards of how many people that we're actually reaching digitally is huge. It's a cause for celebration. And the reason why is if we look in the last 2 years, we've actually doubled our followers. 2 years ago, it was right around 8,000 followers. And today we're sitting at 17,000 followers, which means each post is critical. We just had a bear sighting. So we posted the information that our police department provided. And actually, we've received over 55,000 views of this post. 2 days or a day after this, a video was posted of the bear running down the street, and it's actually received 75,000 views. So over 1,000 shares, which really, again, produces a lot of reach. So again, we want to be newsworthy in our posts. We want to give our citizens information in the dialogue that we have. This was a Fifth Street Bridge post on DWR releasing out of the Oroville Dam. And it received 18,000 reach. We also want to give information. This was a post about our facility rentals. What do we provide here at the city? And the services that we provide. Our recent announcement of text to 911 system and services, which we posted, received over 2,800 views. This was actually a little tutorial video that we put out on social media. So Instagram is another digital door that we have. As of April 15th, we have over 2,400 followers. Our main impressions through Instagram have really been as you see here, police and fire. I think there's a couple council members in there too. Other digital doors that we have. Twitter, 1,943 followers. Every post that we post on Facebook is also posted onto Twitter automatically. Our Y Connect newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter that we send out. Over 14,200 subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, you can see that on our homepage. Click the e-news button and sign up for our newsletter. YouTube is another digital door. In 2018, the team produced over 15 videos. That's not including the council minutes that are produced after the council meeting. So we have a full version of the council meeting being produced right now. Then that gets produced into what we call the council minute, which is just 1 minute of highlights of the council meeting. And we produced 15 videos. And we're an award-winning team. So being an award-winning team, last month I submitted to California Public Information Officers Association for an award on our Bike to Work month. Our Bike to Work month is next month. Part of this was actually for last year's, our website, and a short little video that was done. And I'll show you that video. So as you can see, sometimes the information that we send out is actually fun. It's having fun. Our parks department had fun riding their bikes out of the council chambers. But the award really came from communicators across California voted an award for our website and that video. Challenges are that we only meet once a month. We do communicate through Microsoft Teams during the month on various projects that continue, but we meet once a month. The challenge is that we all have other jobs. Communication isn't the total job, but it is definitely a large part of our jobs. The key is, again, communication. How do we communicate, and are we communicating correctly? Another challenge is are we diverse in every message that we send out? Do we look at our citizen population and commute in the same frames that our citizens understand? It's a plan. It's a way that we want to live and do as we communicate as communicators. The narrative is crucial because we don't want to seem insensitive when we do post or we put things up on our website. We want to make sure it's pertinent and that we are creating emotions through the branding, but also it's not insensitive. And the other thing is that we need to make sure that we're always telling the full story. So the full story always comes up when we give the full message. And sometimes it's very challenging and hard to do that unless we're committed in the right environment, putting out those messages that we all care about so that our citizens can hear us and we can hear our citizens. Any questions?
George, thank you. And it's a great service that you're providing to try to get the message out of the city using the technology, and that's a very effective way these days too. So I really appreciate that. One of the slides, and I don't remember which one it was, you said one of the top hits was "Contact Us." When they're hitting or they're selecting "Contact Us," what are they? Any insights as to what they are trying to contact us for?
Unfortunately, we can't tell that by the analytics. We can only tell that they actually hit that page. So again, based on the Contact Us page, it does have all the list of department phone numbers. So it could be any of those phone numbers they're reaching.
Okay, thank you. Again, good job.
Thank you.
Through the mayor.
Yep.
George, to the entire team, great job. It's very, very much noticeable how the digital front door has evolved, especially in the last year. A lot more content going out, and that's what we want to our residents so they know what's going on in their city. That's how we're able to maintain transparency and get people involved in our community. I want to express my opinion to have George do all the presentations because I specifically want to go watch that movie now again with my kids. I think the presentations would be much more enjoyable if you did them all. And a follow up on Councilmember Boomgarden's question with the analytics. I'm very familiar because we use them in our firm. You can tell by driving down a little bit further how much of that is coming from bots. And of that, how much is coming from bots or trollers versus, real people hitting? Because typically the homepage being that much of a disparity, a lot of that is going to be bots. Do you have that information by chance to know, what we're doing there and how are we using the SEOs to optimize our presence out there? Because the ever-changing content and the relevancy and the links, all of that helps with the SEO optimization to get us in those prime locations. Can you expand on that just a little bit?
I can a little bit. Actually, I'd be happy to talk to you offline with this as well, because it is a more elongated answer. But the quick of it is the numbers that you're actually seeing here are divided. What's great about Google Analytics today is that, and what the councilman is talking about in regards of bots, is that you have organizations that will actually just send out hits. So what they're trying to do is infiltrate and get into a particular system, whether it be Facebook or your website, to see what can their computer system do to make it simple. The great thing about Google Analytics is that you can decipher that so that you understand what was a computer hit or what was a natural URL hit, okay? And what I have here is all natural URL hits.
Through the mayor. I really enjoyed the presentation. I like your graphs, everything that you put together, the team, all of you that you worked on it. So with the challenges, how is it that I can help you? That you're saying, this committee comes together and you're digitally doing the work, or on Microsoft Suite or something. How is it that I can help you then?
Great question. Like I mentioned, we all have our day job, per se, if I could put it that way. And our concentration on communication, to me, as a communicator, is very crucial. As a council, for goals and priorities, we want to make sure that we're messaging those goals and priorities to our citizens, so that we're really engaging and that we can hear good feedback from citizens, so that it can really give you the answers that you need for your constituents. Mm-hmm. Again, we really don't have the time consideration because we don't have a full-time staff that is communicators.
Okay.
Our city of 68,000, again, other organizations in Capio, our city size, they mm-hmm. do have a staff. So Digital Front Door, we do a fantastic job in how we do it. Mm-hmm. We're very conservative in regards of how we produce things, mm-hmm. what we put out there, and we're doing it again in those time frames that we can. What's crucial is like the bear story. It got out as soon as it happened. Sometimes if we miss those stories, those news stories that are critical mm-hmm. to give our citizens that information, we might miss it just because we're not there full time.
We don't have a full-time designated person. Is that what I'm hearing you say, George, or am I adding that?
Yes. So I'm saying if we had a full-time staff, if we had a communications team, or even just one person that was full-time, mm-hmm. It would be a great way that we can then add that to what the Digital Front Door is doing, mm-hmm. so that really across departments, because as I showed you here, there is an individual from each department.
Right.
And really that coordination across departments could happen then.
Right. And thank you for saying that. I've seen that. I utilize a lot of digital because that's how I get my news a lot, right? And so seeing postings from police, sometimes recreation. So it kind of, people are posting different things. So sometimes I have a hard time even keeping track of what just got posted, or where can I find that piece of information, because I want to share it with someone that I had a conversation about. And so I hear your your message, and thank you for giving me some good understanding of possibly how I can be a better councilwoman to help with what is needed in the city.
Sure. And one other way is really promoting the digital front door and what we do and the signups. So, like I said, the newsletter, those type of things that we do have, following our Facebook and encouraging citizens to follow our Facebook. Those type of things help as well.
Thank you. Very well done.
The mayor. Just want to say thank you, George, for you and your staff for everything you do. Thanks again.
Sure.
And George, thank you very much. Keep up the good work. I think it goes for all of us. If there's everything we can do to help you out, please don't hesitate to let us know.
Yeah, and I apologize. I left Darren off the digital front door list, so I apologize, Darren.
Down there. All right, we'll move on to number 5, ordinances. And it looks like, let's see, Tara Locke, Yuba City Economic Development Commission Ordinance Amendment. And I have a card, looks like. Number 9.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. I was so interested in the previous presentation, I forgot that I was up next.
She looked online.
It was Council's desire to have a amendment to the established ordinance of the Economic Development Commission. So the commission was established in 2008 by ordinance, and it's designed to provide oversight of the economic development work strategy. And the economic work strategy was developed by a team of 28 advisory commissions, and the goal of it was to create a positive and inspiring self-image, grow opportunities for well-paying jobs, and enhance the quality of life through collaborative and integrated actions. And this is the work plan that Darren had mentioned regarding the the Economic Development Corporation presentation. So currently, the commission is designed to have 5 members, and it's designed to have a diverse background so that we have a member from different organizations. So you could have a banker, real estate agent, education, agriculture. Those are really prime professions to have on the commission to bring a different perspective. And so because it was established about 10 years ago, it needs a kind of a re-energization. It was established during the economic downturn in about 2008, and currently we're kind of in some different, we're not growing as the commission hasn't expanded its mission. And so it was requested to increase from 5 members to 7 members, which would increase the quorum needed from 3 to 4 members, and to have monthly meetings in the evening. And in order to change this, we need to amend the ordinance. And so these are our current members. And we just last month assigned Margaret Fernandez and Stacy Brookman. And if this ordinance goes through, we'd have 2 more. So the recommendation tonight is introduce an ordinance amending sections 2.12.01 and 2.12.05 of Chapter 12 of Title II of the Yuba City Municipal Code, Economic Development Commission, and increasing the composition of the members from 5 to 7 and waiving the first reading.
All right, thank you. Does anybody from the public like to comment on that? All right. If anybody else would, feel free to queue up behind Elaine. No problem there at all.
Elaine Miles, and it's just a question. There were 5 members, 5 groups, education, agricultural, etc. Are we going to restrict the 2 members to specific groups? Or are they going to be city council members, or what? I'd like to have a little more open explanation of increasing this membership. Thank you.
Well, as you know, Elaine, this is typically comment, not question and answer, but you'll slip one in anyway. That will depend on who applies. If we don't have anybody from a certain area that's not represented, we can't really have that option to eliminate folks. I'm happy when folks do apply, and so we're going to have to play that by ear. Ideally, we will have an adequate balance, which is part of the idea behind expanding to try to capture some other folks from other representation entities. So that will depend on who applies. But ideally, we will have representation, and they will not be limited. So there you go. You're welcome. I'm sorry. I will clarify. That's a good point. I will clarify that City Council will not be on it. Thank you. All right. Anybody else before we move on? Any comment from the dais? Then we're looking for action.
Through the mayor, make a motion to introduce an ordinance amending sections 2-12.01 and 12.05 of Chapter 12 of Title II of the Yuba City Municipal Code, Economic Development Commission, and increasing the composition of the members from 5 to 7, and waive the first reading.
I'll second that.
Very well. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Thank you very much. Now, this speaker card says item number 6. Elaine, did you just submit this for number 5? Well, no. You're fine, but number 6 is on here. Did you want to speak again on something? Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. Doesn't matter. Just as long as she gets to speak if she wants to. All right. So we'll go on to public communication. What? You are welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on items listed on the agenda when they are called. Public comment on items not listed on the agenda will be heard at this time. Comments on controversial items may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. So we have written requests for, let's see here. Number 7 will be Dave Cunin, appearance of interested citizens.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is David Cunin. I live at 1169 Claro Court, actually in Sutter County. I'm not in the city bound. I'm in the Keyway, hopefully. I'm coming before you on behalf of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My role is I'm the Director of Public Affairs, and I've been authorized to come on behalf of President Stephen R. Hammerstrom, who's our stake president. As you know, the church has announced that a temple is coming, and for this area, which is going to be a tremendous blessing, I think, for everybody. And at this time, the Oakland Temple has gone through some significant renovations, and wanted to express an invitation to each of you, collectively or individually, to you and your guests, to come on a special tour of the temple before it's open to the public. So this tour is on May the 10th. I do not have the specific time, but we will be chartering a bus, the church here. The bus will meet over at the Stake Center across the street, and we will happily drive you down and drive you back, and we will also provide a sack lunch, and I believe there will be some visitors from Salt Lake that would like to just say hi and greet you. And this would give you an opportunity to go through the temple and see the architectural intricacies and some of the symbolism in there, and it would be much of a treat for me, being that I know each of you, but also as a treat to show you what is about to come here, so you get a feel of what these buildings do and what's inside of them. These opportunities are open on May the 11th. It'll be open to the public for like 3 or 4 weeks, but May 10th is a tour for elected opinion leaders like yourself. And so anyway, I wanted to make sure that you have them. I have a printed little invite. I will give, there's 6 of them there, and you can pass them around to like Terrell Locke or any of the others that you feel would like, that would be benefit to come on behalf of the city, and it'd be my honor to take you down there. And like I said, the bus will take you down, bring you completely back. It takes, what, 2.5 hours to get there, and He'll probably be there for about 2 hours on the tour, and then come back. It'll be an enjoyable day. So, if you had any questions, I can answer further related to that. If you had any questions.
Questions?
No.
Thank you very much
My
for the invitation.
email address is on the card, specific to RSVPing, because we would like an RSVP, so we kind of know how many are coming. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave, for the invitation.
Anybody else care to speak on anything? All right. Move on to the consent calendar. I have a request to remove number 10. We have Mr. Mike Short that would like to speak on number 10. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items prior to the time that council votes on the motion, unless members of the city council, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. So we have number 10 removed. Would anyone of the public like to speak from any other item on the consent calendar? Come on up, sir. Would you like that pulled or speak on it? You just want to speak on it, correct? Okay, come on up. We have 3 people that would like to speak on number 9. I'm sorry, 4 people.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, giving me the opportunity to speak. I am Larry Mertz. I live in North Yuba City, been a city resident for 45 years. I do not like the way that the proposition was written by Darren Gale. It does not discriminate between California citizens and non-citizens. California is trying desperately to count non-residents and non-citizens for purposes of gerrymandering the state even farther than it is. As it is in Northern California, we have 21 counties north of the Sacramento River, and we have only 5 elected representatives in the state legislature. And this will just make it worse. We need to discriminate between citizens and non-citizens on the census count. That's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, sir. Is Larry Verga still here? There he is.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. My name is Larry Verga, and I'm a resident of Sutter County in the sphere of influence. And I'm here to recommend that you do not approve the resolution of the 2020 Census Committee for the state of California. And my reasons are, and starting from the top and working down, is that, as you know, the Census Bureau had announced that they want to put the citizenship question on the census questionnaire, and the Democratic Party opposed that. And it's resulted in a lawsuit that went clear to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's accepted it, and sometime between now and April of 2020, they will make a decision on whether the census question is there or not. But the real concern is that in California, and the committee that you want to approve their resolution is basically a Democrat appointed committee, appointed by Governor Jerry Brown. And California is, in fact, a Democrat-controlled state. As a result of the motor voter law and also the ballot harvesting that took place, we ended up with the legislature this year, because of the last election, of 60 out of 80 seats in the state assembly are Democrat. And 29 of the 40 seats in the Senate are Democrat. And all of the constitutional officers in the state of California are Democrat. And I'm just contending that because of the allocation of seats in Congress as a result of this census, that the impact should be at the hands of the U.S. citizens, not foreign citizens and illegal aliens. And I'm recommending that because of that, and similar to Mr. Mertz's concern, that you not approve the resolution as written. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to Carla Verga, followed by Terry Thompson.
My name is Carla Verga, 430 South George Washington Boulevard. I'm in the county, but I'm in the sphere of influence, and I strongly stand on opposition of this resolution. The good thing about having you vote on it, though, would be to get your votes on record. This issue is going to go before the United States Supreme Court. They've already agreed to hear it, and it should go next week. And this, I'm a naturalized American citizen. We became citizens so we could vote. That's not the case anymore. You've got non-citizens voting. And by you're benefiting people that come to our country illegally, they get counted in the census. They get the apportionment of the congressmen, the federal and state funding, and then the citizens are left out to dry. It's like Sutter County with our 60,000 people or whatever we are now. We're vastly outnumbered by the number of illegals in LA County they have more votes with the illegals, more representation in our councils, in our state legislature, and in Congress than we do. And that just isn't right. So I strongly oppose this measure, and we need to stand that citizens are counted in the census. We can also have everybody counted, but make sure that the apportionment for legislators and Congress members are only based on the number of citizens, not non-citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Terry Thompson, and my main issue about all of this, I'm sure you're all very intelligent persons and women, but you know, this is our country. As a citizen of this country, counting all the people, I have no problem with. I don't care if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. It doesn't make any difference to me. Where my difference comes is if you're a citizen of this country, a legal citizen of this country, you have a right to vote. If you're an illegal person in this country, you have no rights at all to this country. None. And we shouldn't be paying them and giving them. I'm a veteran. And as far as I'm concerned, they treat all of the illegals far more than I've been treated in the last 50 years of my life. Somewhere down the line, you people are the ones that have the right, the ability, the authority to take and make this right for the American citizens. We can't be overrun. We're being overrun right now. And everybody wants to count everybody so that they can get their money, their funding and stuff. That's not right. And I oppose everything that has to do with this because of that. I want my voice heard. Maybe it doesn't go any further than this room. But something's got to be done because we are being invaded. And no one's doing anything about it except inviting them. Look at the disease that's coming through. Look at all the problems with gangs. People are getting murdered in San Francisco just the other day. You know, it's got to stop somewhere. And it's your ability as the people that you are, that you can do this. So stop giving in to all these people that have no right to be here. They take our welfare systems and abuse it to no end. They take our medical and abuse it to no end. I have a hard time for the last 50 years to get medical. I'm a veteran. I served this country. And I want you people, as a collective group of people, to do something about it. Truly do something that protects me as a citizen and everyone else that in here that is a citizen. And stop giving our country away. It's time we need to take it back. I thank you very much for your time, and I'm getting a little emotional, so I should step down, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Would anybody else like to care or speak on the matter? Any discussion up here?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would actually like to have that item, was it 9?
Yes.
Pulled from the consent, and let's take separate action on that in lieu of tonight's comments.
Pulled from consent?
Yeah, pulled from consent at this point.
All right. Is it just a matter of me saying so, or we have to go through the protocol? Easy enough? Something's easy for once? All right, let's do that. Open for discussion.
Do you want to handle it now or handle the rest of the consent agenda, Mr. Mayor?
Do it right now.
Okay. First of all, sir, thank you for your service. I'm a veteran as well. Okay. This is a highly polarized issue, as a lot of things are in our country. And with that, as you indicated, as all of you indicated, this is going before the Supreme Court within the next short period of time. I think the spirit of this resolution wasn't to cause harm or foul, Mr. Mayor, across the board. It was simply to encourage people to be a part of the census. But in light of it being a polarized issue, I would like to offer up that we hold off on our resolution until such a time in the next few weeks that we have a decision from the Supreme Court, because obviously we have no control over every issue that was brought up tonight. All we have the ability to do is pass a resolution. So I think we should draft a resolution to align with the supreme law of our land, which is the Supreme Court, in just a matter of a month, because the census is still forthcoming.
All right. Do we have any anticipated date for a decision on that? When is this census supposed to begin? Next year? 2020?
2020.
All right. 2020 census. Okay. All right. Thank you for that comment. Anybody else?
Through the mayor,
Yes.
I do agree with Councilman Shaw. He stated a point that I was going to make. I would like to go on record, though, since one in the audience asked. I'm not opposed to the census. I do think every legal citizen should be counted, and I do think there's an opportunity to count all the citizens, but the count that determines funding and apportionment and all those things should be reserved for those folks who are here legally. But in the spirit of what Councilman Shaw, you said it very well, Councilman. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
I'm just going to ride the wave, Mayor.
Ma'am?
I like your thought, Councilman Shaw. I like your thought, the idea of the Supreme Court. Having been an immigrant into this country, had the luxury of being legally crossing the border. Not all of us have that opportunity. And having participated in the census over the years, I have. My family has. Lots of people's families have. I think that it's unfortunate when it becomes polarized and political, and it's not necessary. This is something that it's order for us to be able to understand who is living in our communities. And there are people that are undercounted. And I agree with that because I've seen it. I have my master's in social work from a university that is having a lot of problems lately. But in that, I've done a lot of research about census data. And so I would offer to you that in order to make statements, I like to keep it to what I know are the facts. So I utilize the U.S. Census. I use the United States of America's census, because if I don't trust our federal government, then what am I doing here as an elected official? I trust what they're doing, and I trust the count. But I also think that in this write-up, that Dale put together, I think he kept it very general to what the standard is expected of a state, of counties. And so I think in his words here that he listed are not offensive to the other populations. I think it's talking about we support the count. Let's be counted as Californians. And so I would encourage that the language stay in a neutrality, in a compassionate, but understand that we all here, and I'm here to serve, and I will do it ethically and to the rule of the law, but sometimes the language can be harsh.
All right, thank you.
Through the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just for the information of the City Council, the Supreme Court will be hearing oral arguments on this in April. They should have a decision before the end of June. The U.S. government will start printing its census papers immediately thereafter at the end of June.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. That helps quite a bit. Basically, it's the proclamation stating that we support participation in the census, which of course we do, but I do have strong agreement with some things that have been said tonight in that we're counting folks that are not citizens of this country. They're here by violation of the law. That's unacceptable. They should not receive benefits, period. However, I also think that it's important that we count everybody that's here because the reality is they are here. At the same time, so we have this dilemma, right? Excuse me. I also can't help thinking about the kids that were brought here against their will or with their parents and that they need services. They just simply do. So I think we do need to support it, but I do think I have an extreme comfort level with what has been said here. I agree with your philosophies, but we do need to count them. But I also think that we need to be in line with the law of the land, which is our Supreme Court. I have zero problem with waiting until that decision is rendered, and then we can act as a council at that time. So that would be my opinion. That being said, unless there's further discussion, I'll take action.
Okay, through the mayor.
Sir?
I'd like to make a motion to put this on the calendar for the second council meeting in June concerning the recognizing the importance of the 2020 census to be counted California.
Okay.
I will second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your input today. All right, so now we are going to vote on 8 and 11 as a matter of consent before we go to number 10.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for pass the consent calendar for item number 8 and item number 11.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very well, that's passed. Now we'll go to number 10, Mr. Moody.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Okay, so the item before you is in regards to contract contingency analysis. So a couple months back, council requested staff look into our policy, just kind of as a rule of thumb. We had a standard policy where we came back with contract improvement projects where we requested 10% budget allowance with a contract improvement. So with that, we went back and we basically went through and kind of did analysis where we looked at the city's purchasing policy, we looked at the contract, public contract code, we looked at neighboring cities to see what their standards were, and then we also went back 10 years to look at all of our public contract projects that we've come to council and look at those contingencies amount. And the contracts that we surveyed that used the 10% standard, we had an average of about 4%, 4.1%. In that analysis, we had hundreds of projects. We didn't particularly. There were some projects that we had a specific request for a 20% contingency. There were some one-offs where maybe we had a really good bid and we had to use the money by a certain time frame. So when we came to council, we asked for a 20% contingency, or we knew it was a facility improvement project where we were going to get into a remodel situation where there was a different request. And so this is just a real typical, with a standard 10% request, we used about 4% on average based on the percentage. And those projects range from anywhere from $8,000 to $11 million. And so typical projects, roads, utilities, city facilities, public improvement type projects. So we looked at Lincoln, Woodland, Roseville, West Sacramento, just some quick internet searches through their staff reports, what we could find readily available. Not a real super detailed analysis, but we pulled up some past projects on each of those sites and looked. And the common theme was that this 10%, it's not really, it wasn't in the public contract code, it's not in a purchasing policy, it's really kind of a rule of thumb for the budget for the 10%. And so when we're looking at that, there is the potential, and the staff hears council's request that we don't want to set an expectation that with an approval of 10% that we're automatically spending that 10%. But we also recognize that there's some variances. The 4% was an average, so sometimes we're spending 1%, sometimes we're spending 7%. And so with that, staff feels maybe instead of just setting a generic 5% rule of thumb or a 10%, that the best way to really handle that is with each particular project, we come analyze the history of those type of projects, like the striping project we brought last council meeting, that we could kind of see, hey, what do we think? And then we could set a standard based on what we think. So we could tighten up that expectation a little bit. And, and then a little bit on the variables, which most of you know is, we recognize with the different projects when we get into a full-blown reconstruct in the middle of an existing street with existing utilities, that has a higher tendency for a higher percentage versus a striping project where we could really nail down some of the limit lines and the length of the striping and different variables. So with that, I recommend that you basically just direct staff to continue analyzing each project, and we'll come with a specific contingency request versus a 10% standard. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Sounds great. All right. Mr. Short.
I'm Mike Short. I live at 2347 Oregon Way at Shanghai Bend. After this rousing speech by my fellow Vietnam vet, he did a far better job of talking than I could do about anything, so I withdraw my request to speak on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, number 12 has been pulled, so we'll move on to number 13.
Mr.
Unless
Mayor,
anybody else would care to speak on.
we got to do number 10, sir.
We didn't do number 10?
We have to do it.
Oh,
Was the city council planning on taking any formal action on number 10?
yeah, we have a vote on number 10. I apologize.
I'd like
Any
to
action on number 10?
like to make a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Ben, I just want to say thank you for doing the research on this, because you said council. I was the council that brought up and said 10% was way too broad. I do support the position being very specific, because obviously if we have a $7,000 project, the 10% contingent isn't much, it's $700.
Yeah.
But if we've got an $11 million project, 1% is an awful lot. So as long as you're bringing them forward with justification and something reasonable, the whole idea was to basically tighten the ship a little bit. And I do appreciate your work, and it's nice to know that we've only been out of variance on average about 4%, which is a lot more in line with the general public versus government. So I just want to say thank you, and I support the recommendation. Do we need to take action, Mr. Mayor, to?
Yes.
Then I would move, there we go, I was looking for it right there. Yeah, 10. I would move that we direct staff to provide specific contingency requests for each city improvement project.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Now number 13, Mandeep, welcome.
Mr. Mayor and council members, good evening. In this item, I will be making recommendation to award professional services agreement to Jacobs Engineering Group for the design work to do the repairs to the wastewater treatment facility discharge ponds located within the Feather River floodplain. And those ponds were damaged back in January 2007 high water events in the Feather River. And this is an aerial image on the left hand side, and then the pictures of the ponds, how the rock on the roads was moved into the ponds, and also the roads got damaged, as well as the berm slopes were damaged to the ponds. So we have 6 ponds, approximately over 120 acres. Each pond is 20 acres approximately. And the staff has been working with Cal OES and FEMA to request financial aid. And application for ponds has been approved by FEMA, and we are authorized to do design work and competitively bid the project and build the repairs. And application, we have 2, actually in the staff report, one of the recommendation is being requested to remove. The second project was access road to the water intake facility on the north side of the town within the floodplains of the river. And the application is under review by FEMA, and staff is working to address some concerns that we receive a letter from FEMA. We are working with Cal OES to address those concerns so that that application can also get reviewed and potentially gets approved. So staff is working on that. So the scope of work for this design for Jacobs will include the design for the road repairs, design for the slope repairs, design for the bottom surface repairs, and also repairs to the pipe conveyance system to the ponds. And also, in addition, FEMA is going to pay us for hazard mitigation work, which is to add riprap on the pond slopes. So the slopes that were damaged, we will have the ripraps installed so that in the future high water events, we won't get a severe damage. In addition to that, in order to do the repairs to the ponds, we have to divert the flow from the ponds to the river. So right now we are doing another project to relocate our diffuser project, which is a few years down the road potentially. And right now the California Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board is in the process of amending our NPDES permit to allow us to divert our flow to the river through a temporary new location, which is essentially going to be on the east side of this pipe. This pipe is the existing diffuser, which stays out of service under the normal river conditions, which is most of the year. So we cannot use this diffuser unless we have certain amount of water flowing on top of this diffuser. So so in order to complete the work, we need to add a temporary diffuser into the river, which is being approved, is in the process of being approved by the state. This portion of work was not in the approved scope of work by FEMA. And staff is planning to work with Cal OES to request this additional approved work. So this is going to be extra, and So there is a risk if FEMA doesn't approve it, we will be paying design costs for this work, but we are anticipating that FEMA will pay for this extra work to do this new location and new diffuser location in the river on a temporary basis. So Jacobs Engineering Group was selected to relocate our permanent diffuser back in 2018 through a competitive process. And Cal OES has allowed the cities to award this professional services agreement to the engineering firm that we used in the past on a similar project. And Jacobs Engineering Group is doing a similar work in the Feather River for another project, and they fall in that category. So with that, Jacobs will prepare the necessary engineering design and environmental documents to get the permits to bid the project. And the staff is anticipating that FEMA and state will approximately pay over 93% of the work. The rest of the money will be from city funds, the wastewater fund. And access road, again, is where city staff is working with the Cal OES for the next steps, and will come back to the council as necessary in the future. So the design work and environmental permitting work to do the ponds design is $252,292. Approximately $80,000 of that is required to do the work not approved in the FEMA scope, but it is necessary in order to do the project. With that, my recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to finalize and execute upon approval by the city attorney as to the legal form a professional services agreement with Jacobs Engineering Group, Inc. of Sacramento in the amount of $2,052 to $292 to prepare a construction contract and environmental documents for 2017 storm damages wastewater treatment facility discharge ponds repair project, with the finding that it is in the best interest of the city to do so. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Through the mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Ben Moody, can you go to the podium? Thank you.
Yeah, I could help add to some of the conversations there.
Now, was this part of the discussion also for that with the North Valley, that we attended the meeting?
This is not. So, so to back up a little bit, this damage was, just to help clarify and for the public.
Right.
So in 2017, with the high flows from the Orville incident, we had damage to our ponds, as Mandeep pointed out. Particularly right here on this north edge, and then also to the north up for our low lift intake for our water structure, where it kind of washed away the bank and when it settled. And so so Mandeep's been basically, there's a lot of paperwork associated with getting money back out of FEMA and Cal OES, and then the percentages and improving the projects. And so he's been working with them and basically established the requirements for these ponds, and has had the scope approved. With that breakout of that 250,000, I choke on that dollar amount too a little bit when I first see it. It's a big dollar amount to pay for designing to put rocks on the side of a bank. And but with that, Mandeep, he has a little more clarification. A lot of it has to do with the environmental portion of it, because we're down inside the river bottom and obtaining the permits, and then also some elderberry bushes that we're working around that. And so, so with that, 80,000 of that 250 is to put this potential East Bank diffuser that comes out this side. So when we go in here to do the work with the rocks on the bank, we could actually dry out one of the ponds and then do the work. Because right now we're maxed out where the ponds are completely full, and we're not able to go into, we're not able to use our existing diffuser. We had a good picture of that there. Because it's high and dry. And so back in 2015, the Shanghai Bend Rapids changed, and it basically cut a channel through there, and it left our existing diffuser high and dry, where the state doesn't want us to put anything out of it unless there's a foot of water over it. And so, so to try to simplify the terms of our ponds are full. It's our instead of having two options, the diffuser and the ponds, we're maximizing the ponds out where we have all 6 ponds. We have a project with FEMA approved to clear out the bottoms, re-rip them, regrade them, put rocks around the side, and then we're trying to basically justify that $80,000 and the construction of that East Bank diffuser so we could facilitate that construction. And so there's, to be clear, you know, we might be left holding the bag for that $80,000, but I think it's in our benefit that we do the permitting and have that option, even should FEMA not pay us back. But we're working to push that. We think it's a essential part to do the ponds timely because they're full of water or effluent.
Right. So part of that was because this damage occurred, and FEMA and Cal OSHA would reimburse us if once the project is completed. Correct.
And so there's a percentage, 93%.
Yeah, 93.75.
Yeah.
Yeah, percent. So but the difference was 24,000 on the total amount. There was about 25,000 left of the difference, but the additional 80,000 is potentially because we don't know what could be found in there.
The 80,000
in the repair. Is that?
No, so the 80,000 is just the design for. We're basically gonna build. Gosh, our pencil. I wish I could zoom in here a little bit. So right now, that high and dry pipe is laying on this beach right there on the west side. What we're proposing with that 80,000 is right now there's a pipe that goes underground. It comes up and it pops up into these ponds, and we use it to fill these ponds. We're gonna tag into that pipe and then go to the north there into the east channel, so it stabs out on the east side, and then that gives us an ability to basically discharge directly to the river instead of going into the ponds. And so that $80,000 is just for the design. Is there any environmental work permitted to basically get the permits and to do the design to put that pipe into that east bank? And so that's the gamble that that we're trying to, you know, we might be left holding the bag if we can't get FEMA to approve that. But we feel that it's warranted, and we're pushing for it because in order to facilitate the construction, it's a needed component.
So we feel pretty secure that the other monies besides the 80,000, just to summarize it.
Yes, that has been approved.
Okay.
That has been
I just want to
approved.
be clear on that. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, for
Do
staff.
we have public comment on this
I'm
one
sorry.
yet? Nope. Okay, go.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, for staff's recommendation of the 2017 storm damage repairs of the Yuba City discharge ponds, preparation of construction of contract documents, and that would be recommendation B.
Wouldn't it be A and B?
No, it's B.
We pulled
We
A.
pulled A.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I was confused with. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
No problem.
And Mr. Mayor, did we have
Yes.
public comment on this item, or did I just
I
miss that?
did ask for it, nothing surfaced. Thank you. Appreciate the backup, though. All right.
Second the motion.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Going on number 14, 2019 resurfacing project, also with Ben.
Okay, you got me again. So
thank you, Mandeep.
So the item we have before you is in regards to the 1819 resurfacing project. It's basically to provide road repair, maintenance, and provide that repair for the various roads throughout the city. So annually, the city tries to put a project together to maintain our roads. As some of you have heard at the past transportation workshop, we have approximately 230 miles of roadways that require about $7 to $8 million a year to keep them where we're at, ideally. With this project, we're proposing about a $550,000 project is what we're shooting for with this based on what's budget and trying to hold back some money as we talked for a future Bridge Street project. So staff, basically we use our Street Saver program. It's a street management software, and then also public input and YC311 input, and we drive the roads too to really see where they're falling apart. And the need, unfortunately, as everybody knows, outweighs the resources. And so we basically whittle that list down to fit the project scope, and then also kind of leverage different funds. And so with this, we're leveraging an asphalt rubber Cal Recycle grant where we got up to $100,000 to basically every square yard of asphalt rubber we put down, we get $1 off. So we're looking at about with this one, since we weren't able to go for a full-blown $1 million project, we're looking more at to recoup maybe about $50,000. So it's not a huge amount of the project, but it is maybe 10% where we're able to recover through that grant project. So the areas that got whittled down, basically 3 areas across town. As you can see, it's a little small to the public, but we have Civic Center and Pool. We have the area over by Carriage Square, that Weiler, Lawrence. I'm drawing a blank here on these streets right now, and but they're really, if you've driven any of these streets, they're really rough. I mean, these aren't your pristine, smooth streets. Civic Center, right when you turn off 20 here, it's been just a multitude of potholes. It's a truck route that comes up here and goes here for the DMV. We've had the recent construction with the PD. We're working towards the park, and they're getting close to the point that if we don't do something, they're going to really fall apart to a full-blown reconstruction. And so what we're proposing, unfortunately, isn't even a Cadillac. This is really just to set the expectations right now that this is an asphalt rubber Cape Seal. And so it's going to be real similar to that East Onstott project and Plora and some of those other areas where it's where we try to put that on more of the commercial type, collector type streets where we get away with maybe not being quite as smooth. But we're going to work with some different options about micro grinding and trying to put down a couple different layers down to help with the smoothness. But that's what we have proposed right now. So in addition to this is kind of exciting for the project. I don't know if anybody caught this yet, but it's what's called the thin blue line. And so the police chief brought it to our attention maybe about a year ago, and said some other communities are doing this, and can we do something like this? And so engineering looked into it a little bit, and it's so in different parts of the country, they put a blue stripe down, usually in front of the police department, and it indicates it's kind of basically support of law enforcement. And so so we're looking at that, and so when we go in to restripe Pool, there we'll have an opportunity to put down new striping. And so with that, we were thinking of basically putting this blue thermoplastic down in between the 2 stripes. And so it's not everywhere across the country, but it is at certain spots, and I think it does help show the support, and the police department looks forward to it if we could do that. So that will be something new with this project. And it's proposed from Stabler to Pool, or Stabler to Civic, excuse me. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and would like to request approval of the plan and specs and authorize us to put it out to bid.
We do have one speaker, Mike Short. If anybody else would care to comment, please feel free to queue up.
My name is Mike Short, 2347 Oregon Way at Shanghai Bend. I find it very innovative that the city has found a way to keep down their resurfacing costs by not paving something in the first place. I speak specifically of the dirt parking lot at the end of Shanghai Bend Road. It's pretty easy to pick out. Everything else has been completed around there for at least 10 years. That's the only thing that hasn't been done. For some reason, I guess the city has a different philosophy on doing what it expects everyone else to do. But I appreciate that effort to cut down on your resurfacing costs. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else from the public care to comment? All right. Any discussion or action?
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Ben, just want to bring clarification there to East Onstadt because we've had several conversations here and outside out of the dais. It's actually a good road other than the manhole covers. We've talked about it, and you guys have worked on those, and those have gotten better. But I don't think we have manhole covers down Civic Center and down the middle of Pool and stuff that's in the lanes like they are on East Onstadt. So it is a good product, and the overall road is good. And so I don't want you to get discouraged on East Onstadt. It was just those darn manhole covers that were put there before the road was as busy as it was. So I'm in favor of this.
All right.
Okay, motion?
Yep.
Motion to adopt a resolution approving the plans and specifications for the 2019 resurfacing project and authorizing advertisement for bids on the project as attachments 1 and 2.
Very well.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. Number 15, consideration of 2019-20 CDBG funding. Darren.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. This evening, I'm before you on an item that is a note and file and to provide any feedback to staff, and it's regarding our community development block grants. So a little bit about community development block grant, and the reason why we're bringing this now, kind of early on, is this is an opportunity for the council to give some feedback prior to the need to actually adopt what's called an action plan, and that'll happen here in the near future. So first of all, the city is what's called an entitlement jurisdiction, receiving federal funds through HUD. The intent of the program really is to provide decent housing, suitable living environment, and to expand economic opportunities, but it's really dedicated for low and moderate income persons. There's a few things that, as a result of being an entitlement city, that the city has to do. On an annual basis, the city has to adopt what's called an action plan. Historically, that's been in June. This year, it could be in July. I'll talk a little bit about that later. Additionally, every 5 years, the city council has to adopt what's called a 5-year consolidated plan. And this coming year, that'll be something that will be before the city council for approval. Then the next annual report that needs to be provided is what's called the CAPER. And the CAPER is the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. It's required to be submitted within 90 days after the close of fiscal year. And through that report, we highlight the successes and to ensure that the funds met HUD and our consolidated plan requirement. Process. As relates to the announcement of funds, we never know. Basically, once Congress and the President signs a bill, that's when we'll have an understanding. Historically, we've known by now. Right now, we do not. And HUD has actually given us some guidance that is extending our time to where this could come back to the City Council actually in July. And historically, they've said, hey, just use your past year's allocation for determining the amount of funds that you'll be receiving. Last year, we received just a little over, or actually $1 over, $650,000. Even though we don't know the number, we still need to notify subrecipients, which that occurred at the beginning of this year. We sent it to all of our past recipients, anybody that we think might be a future subrecipient. We held a public workshop on February 6th here at City Hall and talked about the program, our consolidated plan, and last year's annual plan. Applications were due to be submitted to the city by March 13th, and we received 5 applications. Those applications were reviewed, rated, and ranked by a team of staff, which included finance, planning, development services, and our consultant that helps us. The next process after this council meeting is we will prepare what's called the annual plan that I mentioned. And then prior to council finalizing any action, we are required to do a 30-day public notice, and the city council will hold a public hearing at that meeting. So as we receive this, the funding, a certain percentage of the funds can be allocated to certain uses. So first is administration. All of these numbers that I show to you this evening are making the assumption that we'll receive at least the same amount as last year, but there have been times where that funding has decreased. So first, administration, the city, excuse me, the city council can authorize up to 20% for administrative cost. Historically, the city council has always adopted right at 20%, so that's there. Second is public services. Only 15% of total funds can be set aside for public services. Historically, just a number of years ago, we had just literally a dozen subrecipients. HUD came back and said, hey, those groups need to get together and they need to fund projects through one organization. And that's what's chosen to be the Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium. They submitted an application for the entire amount, the $97,500, for a variety of subrecipients. That included the Continuum of Care, the Consortium, Salvation Army, going blank off the top of my head, but there's Hands of Hope and Bridges to Housing. Under public services, this is the funding that the city council could use or could allocate to direct funds to Sutter County for an emergency homeless shelter. We did not receive an application for a homeless shelter this year in public services. Staff and that committee is recommending that we set aside 50% of these funds, that we still don't give all the funds to Sutter Yuba Homeless Consortium, but that 50% of it be set aside for the operations of a homeless shelter if that's to be built. In the action plan, we would state if there's no determination by the end of this calendar year, that those funds could then go to the other uses that the Homeless Consortium is looking to do. I will tell you the Homeless Consortium is not happy about that, but they also understand if the council wants to dedicate funds and not use specifically your general fund, but funding that can be used for that it could come from here. There are some additional homeless funding that will be coming down through the state. We just don't know when and exactly how much, but that's the recommendation for public services. All to go to the Homeless Consortium, but half of it to be set aside for the possible shelter that's being proposed at Live Oak Boulevard. And I believe the Salvation Army is looking at possibly operating that. Yes, Mayor.
A question, just out of curiosity, why would the Homeless Consortium not be happy with us setting aside money for a homeless shelter?
You know what? So what I would say is they want to make sure that all of their programs are funded, and they would hate to see one of their programs a decrease in funding, so that you now are funding just a separate project. We believe that there will be additional funding in this coming year that will be before the City Council. Will be allocating funds that we would recommend allocating funds to the Homeless Consortium that will backfill their need. However, there's no guarantee. This is part of the variety of different funds that are coming down from the state through SB2 and other funding at the state level. So they would rather that you set 15% aside for the current programs, and then if other programs came forward, that you put that towards for the homeless shelter in the future. But again, there's no guarantee when we're going to see or receive those funds.
All right, thank you.
It was the same issue, how we had problems getting them all together also to work under one group, because they were receiving administrative funds, each different organization, and now we're able to just do that all through the consortium. And like I said, we've been open and honest with them. We let them know about this, and like I said, upset but understanding.
Through the mayor. Mr. Gall, I got a question concerning the 50% set aside.
Yes.
You specifically identified the Sutter County potential project, but could that 50% be used for any potential homeless shelter that came up? Because if the consortium came up with their own, could we not allocate it there? Or Salvation Army came up with a separate one? Or do we have to be very specific that it's only the Sutter County one?
No, we can be general.
Okay.
And just say for a
shelter
some
of
type
some
of shelter for homeless.
Okay.
And we'll make sure that the language would include that.
Okay.
So next, the next two, for other projects, you can dedicate up to 65% of your funds for both housing projects and public facilities. So for housing projects, we received 2 applications. First was for Freed Center for Independent Living. This is something they've done on an annual basis. They've been a great partner. And one of the difficult issues with small organizations is getting them to report and meet our requirements for HUD. They've always been very successful. The second application we received was for the Regional Housing Authority for their King Woods Common roofing projects. CDBG has funded this specific project a number of times over years for a variety of different issues. And then in the attachment that was sent out, it mentioned that we received, it had no application, but it talked about a funding request of $47,501, and it put it under the Regional Housing Authority. It is actually a city program that we have the Housing Authority manage for us. The reason why we didn't apply was at the time of application, we had over $100,000 in our owner-occupied housing rehabilitation fund. We've recently had that number drop down below $50,000 because we've had projects come forward and it's depleted those funds. And historically, the City Council had provided somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 annually. Since that number's dipped down below $50,000, staff is recommending that we continue to fund that program. The reason I mentioned this owner-occupied housing program is just recently so there are a variety of homes that are in disrepair in our community. And this is one way that we're able to many times give a loan at no interest that we normally don't get paid back until the home actually sells. And then it becomes a program income. Under the owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program, we can go in and fix 1 or 2 issues. We have other funding, which is called home funding, where we have to bring the entire house up to code. So this really makes it so that if we went in and we're trying to replace windows on a home, we don't have to look at all other code issues. We can just do that specific window replacement versus some of our other funding where you have to bring the entire house up to code. And it's very beneficial. Many times we hear about this program through, it's marketed through our utility bills. Many times realtors bring it up to people since the Housing Authority does a great job going out and connecting with our realtors. And it's not like when they're selling a home, it's just realtors know a lot of people ask them questions. And it's the reason why we're asking for those funds. And like I said, in the attachment to the staff report, it said it was for the Regional Housing Authority, but it's actually for the city, but the Housing Authority manages it for us. And then finally, these were the requests for public facilities. Our Yuba City Public Works each year has a request for ADA sidewalks, and then our City of Yuba City Parks Departments asked for funding for their parks. You will notice, I'm going to go back to the last slide, we were almost fully funding all those requests other than the Regional Housing Authority. And then for the public facilities, it's $10,000 less than what was requested for Public Works and $60,000 less for the Parks Department. So this is all based upon the idea that we're going to receive at least the same amount of funding as last year, if not more. Additionally, this current year, we will probably have budget savings as it relates to administration. And that means in your next year, you could actually allocate some of those funds for public facilities projects. You could not put it towards the public services because you're capped at the 15%. But for the public facilities, you can do more. Where the other ones, it's capped at 20 and 15%. Public facilities, you can do as many as you'd like, or your housing projects. So the next steps is this evening to just get feedback from the council if we're going the right or wrong direction. If you feel like we're going the right direction, we will finish up the action plan. We'll contact all of our subrecipients and let them know this is the recommendation that'll be going to the City Council. And then we will hold on to it until we hear back from the federal government on what our funding will be for fiscal year 19-20. And then I can answer any questions that the council might have.
All right. before we do that, we'll go ahead and open up for public comment, if any. Nothing? All right. Anything from the council?
Through the mayor, thanks.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Gale. I have a couple questions. For the 130,000 administration, what's that going for? Help educate me.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that first. I have our administrative analyst for our department, Jaspreet, who about 50% of her time is spent on CDBG. So that pays for her staff time. It pays for my staff time for working on this project and anyone else on the city that works with CDBG. Additionally, we do have an outside consultant. With CDBG, we need to make sure that we follow all the rules. And unfortunately, as with staff turnover, it's been a long time since we've had a person that's been with the city for an extended period of time to run CDBG. It's about every year or two we've turned over staff, and so we've had to use outside consultants to help us prepare our staff reports, our annual reports, and our CAPER. I would say even with a full-time staff person, we'll always have a little bit of work for an outside consultant. So that's where the administrative fees could go for. This coming year, we have to prepare the 5-year consolidated plan. So there'll be a significant amount of additional staff time that'll be required as part of CDBG, which we have every 5 years. And that's where that funding goes for.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Just out of curiosity, what are we paying the consultant for their help?
So they charge us $80 an hour. And just trying to think, was it, Jaspreet, how much have we provided so far this year? So 17,000 to date this year that we've provided Stewart Consulting. We have 2 former staff members from the city of Roseville who that's all they did for 25 years with the city of Roseville, and they're the ones who help provide us guidance. They're also very affordable compared to other consultants I've looked at recently, which were well over $125 to $175 to help us on any type of project with CDBG funds.
Thank you. The workshop on the 6th, how many people or how many organizations actually attended?
So this year, I think we had 7 different organizations attend, which I was told is similar as past years. We were a little disappointed that a couple did not show, but we followed up with them. One of the things that Jaspreet and also our consultant have been tasked with is following up with all of our subrecipients to make sure that they actually apply and encourage people to come in and apply for the funds.
Did we turn down any applications? It looks like everybody that applied got funded.
Everyone that applied is being recommended for some type of funding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Through the mayor. Mr. Gale, thank you for your presentation. You said in the beginning that we should see some savings this year in the administrative area. How much are you possibly anticipating in the savings there?
Right now, we're looking at around $30,000, possibly.
Okay. So realistically, I mean, we're just going with the standard 20%, which is 130, but really we're looking at possibly 100,000 in cost and 30,000 in potential savings.
So when I mean for savings, I'm sorry I didn't clarify. The savings is for fiscal year 18-19, the current year that we're in.
Okay.
For next year, we do believe that we'll expend the full 130 amount and might go a little bit over. But again, like I said, we have at least 30,000 probably savings this year from administration that could then be put over into fiscal year 19-20.
Okay. Along those lines, I want to go back down to the housing projects. You identified the 2 different projects, and one is city-owned and a city responsibility, and the second, is it Kingwood?
Yes.
Is not a city obligation, correct?
That is correct.
I go back and want to make a recommendation on reallocation of funds here. As I mentioned a while back, even in our priorities and goals, ownership and taking care of what is our obligation to take care of. Being that we have potential savings in the current year, I would recommend that we take the 130 under administrative down to 120 with the anticipation that we're going to have a $30,000 surplus to carry over. And then not fund the Kingwood project because that's not a city obligation, but yet go down and fully fund what is our obligations under public facility and improvements, giving Public Works the full 210, and giving the playground equipment at Sam Brannan the full 160, because we've had funds that's come out of the the Parks and Recs for various things that we've seen through this. I just firmly believe we need to take care of our own first, and then as the surplus presents itself, then we can reach out, because that's an obligation we have to our citizens, and that's something that we own, and that's something that we can control. And so I would ask the council to indulge me with a reallocation.
My understanding, this is a note and file, not really action. It's just recommendation at this time. And so that recommendation is noted. Thank you very much. Anything else?
Yeah, I want to comment on his comment.
Go ahead.
Okay, Kingwood is not a city piece of property. It's part of the Regional Housing Authority for helping folks of low income. So not helping these folks puts a burden, and things won't get done, and we already have a homeless issue in our community. We're going to be adding to it if we don't step up to help these folks at this time. We've done it for many years. It's keeping the community. It might not be ours, but this is part of our community. I just wanted to mention that. So he noted that, and I'd like to note that we still please give them the maximum amount, because they are old and they need to be kept upkeep. And the little bit we don't give them now could cost us twice as much next year or the year after. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Through the mayor.
Yes.
If there, good presentation. Thank you for doing that. The only perhaps I might adjust the comment with the Yuba City Homeless Consortium. It's just probably the limitations of the funds that creates a difference of opinion. But I think, you know, I have to say that the city of Yuba City was one of the first cities that started really working on this homeless issue before any other jurisdiction in our region. And I think a few people do not recognize or have that information, because having worked on this for a long time, so I thank the city for being ahead of the situation as compared to other jurisdictions. I think very few people know that. With the homeless consortium, I think that the work that's been done in the coordination of those services and requiring those coordination is really important. I think the administration and planning part of it, some of those funds this year, you know, if we have an excess, you know, over 30, if we have 30,000 perhaps, and if we are going to do the 5-year plan, which, you know, do we have a reference of how much the last 5-year plan cost us by chance? And if you can research that, if you don't have that information, that would be helpful for the next time. But I think that the rest of the housing program projects and the way that you have broken down divided down the funds, I accept your recommendations, and just that some of the shortfalls for the next year, we have to make sure that we know where that plan might cost us. If it's going to cost us more than $130,000, you know, we need to know that ahead of time. If we can try to plan for that, that's what I would suggest. Thank you.
Good. All right. Thank you very much, Darren.
So, Mayor, for some correctors or for additional direction as we put together the action plan, I've heard a couple council members stay with the existing proposal. I've heard another council member state possibly making some changes and reallocating funds. As we go back as a staff, obviously we don't need a motion here this evening, but could I get a little bit more direction? Should I continue on with the existing proposal, or should I make some changes as proposed by one of our council members?
Without further discussion, we'd almost have to vote on something like that to decide where the majority is on that without a motion. Were you able to even vote without a motion?
You can provide preliminary guidance. You can choose to do a formal vote on this item, either one.
The proposal by Councilmember Shaw, but while looking at it here, I see some validity to it. I would like to get a status on the Kingswood Common Roofing Project to see where that is and how dependent upon that and the historical perspective we have on that. I don't know if it's do we have a roof with holes in it, with emergency repair, they're relying on that money because we've done it historically. I can understand that possible. I don't know where that is, or if it's just a routine replacement on a schedule, whether it needs it or not, for example. But I mean, it's an even 70,000. We'll be able to fully fund our own things. That makes sense to me. But I also would hate to see people who are relying on this traditional contribution be left out in the cold, even literally in this case. I don't really have enough information to decide which one way or the other right now.
To the mayor?
Yep.
The director of the Regional Housing Authority is here. Could he speak concerning the roofing repairs that need to be made? Shannon?
Public can talk.
Gus, if you'd like to speak on that, please, it would be very helpful for staff, for a council's decision. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Gustavo Becerra, Executive Director of the Regional Housing Authority. Our agency has owned this property since 2003. It was what's considered, back in 2002, it was considered a what they call an at-risk property per your housing element. The city approached the housing authority to see if we would persuade us to purchase it. Before my time, but the information that I have was that we partnered with the city, and the city invested some redevelopment funds before redevelopment agencies were stripped away. And the property at the time had anywhere from $2.5 to $3 million of deferred capital needs, yet predecessors that sit in my chair chose to buy it. In hindsight, I would have not purchased that property. But here we are, and the property breaks even, on a good year. It does not generate a whole lot of cash because it was an at-risk property. What that means is that the affordability covenants recorded on the title are about to expire, meaning that a market rate developer can pick it up and do whatever. That hurts the city's housing element, and so the housing authority stepped in, purchased it, maintained it affordable, but without any subsidies. So the rents have been maintained low in order to keep it an affordable housing project, but there are no subsidies attached to it. So it's very hard for us to make the deal pencil on an annual basis with no subsidies. So for the benefit of the public, we try to keep the rents as affordable as possible. We do raise them from time to time, in order to keep up with water and sewer and insurance increases, and try to build up a little bit of reserves to take care of the most important capital improvements. And from our perspective, roofing is, you start from the bottom down to the top. There are 9 buildings at the property. 7 have been re-roofed. They are the original, the 2 that have not been re-roofed. I'll back up a little bit. 5 have been re-roofed. 2 we put out to bid, and as soon as we get some break in the weather, the contractor's starting on 2 more to get us to 7. The other 2 are the original roofs, over 40 years old, and we are applied to get the 8th roof through the city CDBG program to get the 8th roof completed, leaving us 1 more. Again, we don't have the reserves to take care of it. It is an original roof over 40 years old that we're patching, but it has reached its useful life. We would hate to have to displace people, and we have nowhere to put them, and there's not much of a vacancy, in the city to take care of these residents. But we ask that you reconsider the reallocation and that you fund the project, and I'd be happy to answer any additional questions.
Just real quick. Gus, so what you're saying is the roof on building number A, it's in to the extent where it cannot be patched any longer?
We've patched it numerous times. It's just reached its useful life. It's a 30-year comp shingle, and it's over 40 years old, and so it's
all right. And so without this funding here, you may be in a position to have to displace people, is what you're telling me.
Probably, Mayor, yes.
Probably. All right. No other funding sources identified?
We do not have any, no.
Nothing. All right. And we have another.
And just for one last little bit of information, the city has funded partially funded two other roofs at that property. So we've paid for 5 of those, and the city has assisted us with 2 others. And so we are looking for.
What does it cost to replace the building or
So there are 2 stories, and out of the 9 buildings, there are 5 different building types. So this one that we applied for this year through your CDBG program, we haven't put it out to bid yet, obviously pending your approval. But just from past history of other roofs, we believe that one will come in the $70,000 to $80,000 range, probably, depending on how much dry rot we find underneath.
Right. All right. And we have another suggestion here.
Yeah. This isn't for you, Gus. Thanks. It's either for Mr. Gale or our city manager. A couple weeks back or a couple meetings ago, we talked about funding for the low-income housing project on Garden Highway. And during those discussions, it was, I think, raised that the possibility of using low-mod housing for the homeless shelter, for temporary homeless shelter, was a permitted use. And I believe staff was going to go back and find out whether that was accurate or not. Have you guys been able to do that? And the reason I ask is, if we could find you some funding out of that low-mod housing fund to do the homeless piece that's up above, we may be able to create some funds to help the roofing project.
So I did go back and research it, as from what I was looking at that time was construction of a facility. And yes, there was a bill that changed the law in 2017 that allowed you to use funding to build temporary homeless shelters. I did not look to see if it was specifically related to operations. And what I proposed up here above, the 50%, is specifically for operations, if I'm answering your question.
I'm simply trying to find a solution to get a roof over these people's heads, but also support the homeless piece.
So I think,
and we do have this pot of money that can be potentially used for the temporary shelter. You're the subject matter expert in regards to its applicability or not, but
to my knowledge, it's used for the facility, not for operations. However, I believe that their roof project could qualify for the low mod housing fund.
Okay.
Through the mayor, I don't want to seem like I'm the bad person here and I'm against the Regional Housing Authority, because I'm not. Gus, I want to say I commend you guys, because I've been into your minutes and I know the hole that you're digging out of, but it's a big hole. It honestly is. The reason that I brought this forward is this isn't the first time that this has been there. This was in the Regional Housing Authority's minutes almost a year ago, with no solution and no money to put a roof on this. They are, as I brought it up when they asked for the other money for the other project, that they are in deficit spending. And I don't want the city to end up just being the go-to when an organization is not self-sufficient. I realize we need to take care of these people. We need to make sure that they are sufficient. But at the same time, when I read the most recent report from RHA, and they're talking income numbers coming in, and I don't know the specifics, and it's probably compartmentalized, but 80% of what was coming in was going for administrative. And we can't put a roof on a building that is not owned by the city. I want to see RHA actually get more financially stable themselves. I don't mind helping them, but I do not want the city to turn into a blank check, that every time we turn around, we'll put a roof on, we'll help you fund a building. So there's some give and take. That's the reason, Gus, that I'm more stringent on it, is because I see the hole that you're digging out. It's not that I'm against RHA. It's just simply that I want RHA to do the same thing the city is doing, and that's take a real good look at your budget. Figure out how to prioritize taking care of your tenants versus the admin side first, because that's what troubles me, and that's why I brought it up. So if we can find a compromise and a solution, but I don't want to keep funding projects that really aren't the city's obligation when we've got other things that are our obligation.
Through the mayor. Director Gus, can you go up to the podium, please?
Yes.
It's your opportunity to respond back to Councilman Shaw's comments about his research. Is there an opportunity to correct any of that?
I just don't I don't agree with the 80% number that you're referring to, and maybe I'm just not clear, but no, we don't run our properties with an 80% administrative cost to programs or properties. So I'm not sure what you're referring to.
It was in your most recent board minutes that you approved just about a month ago.
Well, again, we don't own any properties or manage any programs where our administrative fees make up 80% of the expense. So I disagree with that, council member.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be happy to tomorrow to send it to our city manager, and then she can forward it out to all the council members. It's just a simple copy of their minutes that addresses what I was talking about.
Yeah, and I think enough gray area has been discussed here that we're not prepared to make a specific direction to staff at this time. We'll have to continue it to our next meeting. I look forward to getting that additional information, and we can have some further discussion offline and research, and then come back.
Thank you, Gus. And if you have an opportunity to provide evidence as well, I would welcome for you to forward that information to us as well.
Yeah, I mean, for clarity, are we talking about when you say administrative expenses for properties? Are we talking about water, garbage, sewer, staff time, maintenance, et cetera, or are you referring to staff time?
I would say refer to your minutes, because that's where I took the information, is directly off your website, your minutes, and I believe that was 2 meetings ago is where those minutes were located. I saved them, and I'll be happy to forward them to our city manager.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And then I'd like to make a final comment for council and the public that Gus here, with his leadership, the Regional Housing Authority got the #1 award for the state of California through his leadership for having great leadership and all the housing in the communities. Actually, in what do we got? Several counties, right, Gus?
For 3 properties.
For three properties. Could you? Right. Can you run up and tell exactly what the award was? That way, it'd be, please make, because it is a great honor, and through his leadership, please.
Councilmember Cardoza and members of the council, that award was for, it was called the Public Housing Program of the Year, and it was specifically for the aggregate of 3 properties, one located in Live Oak, 50-unit senior project, Live Oak Senior Village, and 2 located in Yuba City. 24-unit senior housing property located on Joanne Way, and a 99-unit multifamily property located in Yuba City in Richland Housing. And it was specific to those 3 properties that fall under HUD's public housing program, not our entire portfolio. So a total of 173 units making up that portfolio. And so they grade you on your finances, your management, capital improvements, financial indicators, et cetera. But it was specifically to those units.
Thank you, Gus.
Sure.
All right, thank you very much.
So what do we want to do as far as leadership? What do we want to, he needs, what to do?
What?
He needs to be told he needs to be told.
I just told him we're going to discuss it. Come back.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's just
I'm
another
sorry.
file.
I'm sorry.
All right, number 16, California Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS Unfunded Liability Committee. This is simply the next step. Where's Phil? There he is. the next step in the opportunity for citizens to get together at least monthly for a year to discuss solutions to our unfunded liability challenges we face as a city and indeed as an entire state. And what I need to do is, first of all, we'll get some public comment after I explain what we're doing. We need to add 2 members, or 2 of the members will be included from the city council to steer the meetings. I think it's appropriate, if you all don't mind, I would like to be at least one of the 2 to help be a part of that discussion monthly with folks, and we have one more opportunity.
Mr. Mayor, I'll step up and help you.
Thank you very much. So Mr. Shaw and I will be part of that steering committee. We'll go ahead and when we do that, the next step will be basically setting dates and get the information to be presented at the meetings, get staff to present it, and also Councilmember Shaw and I will be tasked with identifying the role, scope, the city resources that will be available to the folks to become a part of that, and also the time frame. So that will be our next step. Is there any public comment on it? Come on up, Phil. Thank you. I also have Mike Short, it looks like, wants to speak on that as well, which is fine. And Mike, you would get 5 minutes when it's your turn.
Mr. Mayor, I do appreciate this. This has been a long time coming. One of the things I would ask is that you stated on here that the council members will be the steering committee. Is the public going to be in on this, or are the council going to look after it? Why I bring this up is that we went through this years ago with the old water deal at the Hillcrest Water. And what we found at that time, you had the people at the city, you had the people on one side of the water system, and one side of the other side of the water system, and all 3 could not agree. And we would come to meetings, nothing would ever happen. Now, if the council is going to if they are going to be the steering committee, then they should tell the public what they're going to do. The reason I bring this up is because the attitude among all of these cities and counties is nothing can be done. If you make a phone call tomorrow morning and phone any mayor in the city asking him about the unfunded liability, he'll probably hang up on you. The other thing that I would bring up is that I don't think it's the unfunded liability you must look at. You must look at the entire pension issue. You don't know the unfunded liability. That was a mistake by CalPERS. You paid your funds in every year that they dictated. And somehow or other, they mismanaged our money. And we all sit back and we let them tell you what to do, and you do it. You let our roads go to hell, and everybody seems to shake their head and say, well, okay, we'll get a check next month. So, unfortunately, I can say that I have no skin in this game. I'm just up here trying to figure out what can be done, because I saw what was happening back in 2004, and nobody believed. So one of the people that didn't believe said, Phil, come back when you prove us wrong and say, I told you so. I don't have the guts to do that to anybody, but you have to stand up and say, PERS, it's our money, we're paying you to look after it, you haven't done a job, what are you going to do? You can't ask them, you have to tell them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Phil. And yes, there is no goal in mind. The whole purpose is to get public feedback as to solutions, and that's what we're looking for. So we're basically going to be there guiding and also be firsthand, your mouth to our ears listeners. So it doesn't have to go through a third party, just in an interest of efficiency. But it is your meeting, and we want to hear from you and whomever else shows up. So there we go.
I do, thank you.
You bet. Sir. Well,
my name's Thomas Burns, 1885 Greengate. So what he said, I'm on board with that. But I want to comment on the regional housing and the prior topic. Can I do that?
That's passed, I'm afraid, sir.
But I don't think you allowed public comment on it.
Yes, I did. Twice, actually.
I never heard. Okay, so we can't
Yeah, if
can't
you wanna-
comment on
If
it?
you want to make a comment, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll go ahead. Typically it would be no, but go ahead.
I like what you said, Councilman Shaw. 100%. I'm 100% behind what you said. From where we sit out here, it looks like Councilman Cardozo is just trying to grease the skids for Gus. That's what it looks like. And Gus, you need to sharpen your pencil, trim the fat.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Short, come on up.
I've been blessed with some incredible opening acts tonight. I'm lucking out. I'm Mike Short, 2347 Oregon Way at Shanghai Bend. Mayor Harris, members of the council. I'm going to read this because I'll probably screw it up otherwise. I've been trying for the longest time to really get my head around this unfunded liability issue. I mean, I've looked at charts, graphs, documents, everything, PowerPoint presentations. I can't figure it out, or I never could figure it out until I kind of stumbled on something the other day, and hopefully I can try to put this whole thing in some perspective, and that's not going to be easy, but I'm going to try. I'm calling this the Working Man or Woman's Guide to Understanding Public Compensation Packages. So all this stuff's been basically verified, so bear with me, I'll get it through quickly. The current salary of Yuba City's highest paid employee is $277,195 annually, including benefits. This number was verified on 4/16/19. The population of Yuba City was 66,860 residents as of the most recent census of 1/1/18. $277,195 compensation divided by 66,860 human beings equals $4.1495 per person. So every man, woman, and child in this town, whether they're 1 week old or whether they're an old codger like me, gets stuck with a bill in the amount of $4.1495 every year just to support one single Yuba City employee, and you have 291 more, as verified by email circa 4/1/19. I don't think you can buy much for $4.1495 these days, and I'd imagine 66,859 other people would probably agree with that. What a terrible, terrible drag on society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Any other comment? All right. Welcome, Rick.
I'm not a city resident either. I'm a Live Oak resident. I think all of you know how severe the unfunded situation is. And let's not belabor that point, but it's an amazingly large number. One plan I've been observing for several years is the Yuba City, it's the Safety First plan. I wrote an article about it several years ago. It was a plan that the city abandoned or didn't add any new members to, like about 20 years ago. Am I right, Spencer? It's been about 20 years. Anyway, the result is now currently there's about 105 retirees in that plan. They were firemen and policemen, and now there's only 5 current workers. And looking at the valuation report for that plan, this year the city's going to be sending, taxpayers going to be sending $1.4 million for those 5 employees. And so yeah, the unfunded is amazingly big problem. And there's a paragraph in the latest valuation reports, and it says, for inactive employers, the new amortization policy imposes a maximum amortization period of 15 years. Right now, on your unfunded, you pay around 7%. Is that right, Spencer? 7.25%, which is the expectation of investment return. But once these 5 employees who are left in this plan retire, you will now have an inactive plan, an inactive employer plan. And the plans I've looked at, you can be paying as much as 10, 11, 12%. And the unfunded liability for that plan is $22 million. You start talking 10, 11, 12%, you're talking 2 or 3 million just for this one plan, which has no employees. So is the unfunded liability a problem? Yes, it is. And I trust that you are going to make a solid effort to inform the public, because everyone needs to be informed. I've been very impressed tonight with the meeting. I know you're all trying very hard. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
I really did write 16 on that one. I have my glasses on when I look at the number. They're talking more about the actual pension, but I want to go back. I didn't go to both meetings when you talked about having a committee, but I understood it was a citizens committee. So how many citizens members? And when I read the word steer, what exactly do you mean by that? I am a retired government employee. I handled statewide investigations. I know what steering is, but a citizen committee, they ought to be able to come up with ideas, develop plans, and not be totally controlled. But just the wording on this makes me think that you're simply wanting to control it. And you're not that kind of people, in my opinion. So maybe we ought to have a different term. And also define how many public members can actually set up and investigate. Now, I did a lot of things where government employees would come and report when we asked for information, but they didn't have a vote. They didn't write the report. The committee itself did. So this looks like a little bit too much control on your behalf. As much as I like that you're trying to clean it up, but I really think that you ought to think about it a little bit more, about getting some citizens to look at it. And as you're probably all aware, Sutter County just did something last week that really surprised us. They paid money direct to the employees, but it's not going into the retirement balances. That's one good idea right there. And when I worked, so many government agencies jumped right into this retirement plan because they got money for nothing. Well, excuse me, all of us taxpayers are paying that. And it used to be, if you work for the city, the county, the state, you got lower wages. In fact, when I refused to take a job with the state of California, I told them I was making more money working privately at an insurance company. Guess what? That very afternoon, they called me. They raised my rating 3 levels to get me on board. It's all changed now. The government pays more money than any of the local people around here. And we've got to have workers to pay those taxes. So please, think about a real committee. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Elaine. Anybody else care to speak? All right. You have a comment?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I can follow up with some comments since I'm the other council member on
Thank you for that.
that committee. To clarify a few things, I'm not expecting us to get together in a room and do nothing but gripe once a month for an hour, okay? We need to come together and think outside of the box. Call it steering, call it chairing, whatnot. The only 2 people that have the ability to form this committee as a subcommittee of the council and come up with its composition and everything else is the mayor and myself, as we're going to be the 2 council members on there. I do not see it as controlling. I just see it as probably a chair, maybe a vice chair, but I want to have open and honest dialogue. I do not want to have a complaint session once a month for an hour, and we need to kind of figure out what we can do. We do need to look at all things, but this is not a control mechanism. This is trying to get us to the ends of what has been needed for a long time. And I think that's what the mayor brought out was he's heard the concerns and he wants to listen to the citizens and come forward. So, steering doesn't bother me one way or the other. I think it's just a mechanism of chair and creating this darn thing because we are completely out of the box. But I'm looking forward to working with you. Okay?
One way to think about it, since we're making comment on it, is I can understand from your perspective where the word steering may have got you a little bit fired up. Think about it more as facilitating. We're going to be there to facilitate the discussion. I don't even plan on leading the meeting. It's yours. We're going to be there to listen. And I want to be there firsthand to listen, not via some report 2 weeks after the fact. That's why we're doing it that way. That help? What's that? You can change it to whatever you want. But there's your explanation. All right. Pat, are you going to talk or are we moving on? You're talking? Okay.
Couple comments here.
Imagine that. It's all good. Bring it on.
Yeah, I agree with what Elaine said, and I would encourage you to do it more like a grand jury, where the grand jury is, they are the committee and they are working to find solutions with an advisor they can go to get information and answer questions. Thank you.
Good analogy. Thank you very much, Pat. Anybody else? All right. We will move on to business from the, number 17, City Council reports, beginning with Councilmember Boomgarden.
Thank you, through the mayor.
And if you don't mind, I need to step out as well.
Okay. I'm going to start my comments by apologizing, and I'm hoping our city manager might convey this to our 911 dispatchers. It's Dispatcher Appreciation Week, and I think we were a bit remiss by not acknowledging them this week. As one who used to work on the other end of the 911 system, they truly are people who are guardians of the public, and I personally think that perhaps we should, for the next council meeting, bring representation in here and acknowledge them for the work that they do. They truly do take care of the public, and they do take care of our employees as well. With that being said, I attended a ribbon or a grand opening with Vice Mayor Cardoza for Comcast. They are a good community partner. They have some fundraising and benevolent events that they're going to be doing in the community. They are a good partner in our community. We did do the fire badge pinning. I think we did 9 people or 8 people. I can't remember, firefighters plus an inspector. And I also attended a briefing by County OES, the police department, and the fire department on the regional training center. I do want to take a moment to appreciate the efforts for what this regional training center can bring to our community, but I also need to make sure that on an ongoing basis that the city can afford the opportunity to participate in the operations and maintenance of that facility. But as it stands right now, it would be truly a great asset to our community. And as this project goes along, I'm sure that there'll be more discussion at the council in regards to it. Other than that, sometimes, this is a personal thing, sometimes our community takes a shot at the local medical community. I was a recipient of some surgery on Wednesday, and I'm here to sit in front of you to say they did a good job. So to the Sutter Surgical Hospital and their staff over there, I'm most appreciative. Thank you.
All right, very well. Councilmember Espindola.
Well, I do not have anything to report, and I just want to have a moment to talk about the cathedral and Notre Dame and the significance of that. And this week, for those of us that are Christian and in faith, that it's a very significant time, and I wish all of you a wonderful Easter, and And I think it's a good time for us to reflect on our good deeds and the work that we do. I think that it shows this 850-year-old building not completely burning down, but thankfully, but also now the outpouring support to rebuild. And so I have no plans of living 850 years. But if I could, I'd probably come back as that building. So I wish you all a wonderful Easter and many blessings to your families. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I comment on my happenings, I just want to make comments on something that was said earlier. I am one of five, and Council Member or Vice Member Cardoza is my colleague. And sometimes we may disagree on things, but he is my colleague, and I respect his views just like I know he respects mine. It is never the intent of this council to put anyone on the spot, but it is our job to do our due diligence and ask the tough questions. And I know that both of us, as well as the other three members of this council, will do that. So I would ask that, even if we agree to disagree, that we do it in a very respectful manner. And Vice Mayor, I do respect your comments, and we can agree to disagree from time to time. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, now that that's out of the way. Let's get to the Paul Harvey of it. Honestly, I've done not much except the council meetings for the past couple of months because it's been tax season. My work began this morning as I was here at City Hall. I will be here because the real work starts tomorrow. I'll be here pretty much the rest of the week, making up for lost time that my colleagues have been gracious enough to cover for me during the past several months. So again, to the four of you, thank you for taking care of my obligations over the past several months. Now it's my turn to return the favor and step up to the plate and do my part. Looking forward to working with the mayor as we start the budget process tomorrow, and going forward from that. Shout out to the Rosser family and Reno, where I was at this past weekend as I had to make 2 runs to San Luis Obispo to Cal Poly. And of course, it was nice to see the Rosser family there putting on the show. They put on a heck of a rodeo wherever they go. So if you do see the Rossers, make sure that they know they did pardon the French, a hell of a job, because that is one of the most noted rodeos in the country at Cal Poly, at Poly Royal every year. So please pass along good vibes for that. And kind of a selfish act here, but Mr. Mayor, I would like for us to be able to adjourn tonight in honor of all enrolled agents who survived tax season this year, if we might be able to do that. Just a request.
Councilman Shaw, just for that, my cousin is an enrolled agent, so I will support you on that.
He's a what agent?
Enrolled agent.
What's that mean?
That's my credential.
Oh, enrolled agent.
For those of you that don't know what an enrolled agent is, an EA is the top federal tax credential there is. It's someone that specializes in taxation. We're not licensed by a state. We're actually global. And I've lectured worldwide. I've done taxes worldwide. We don't have any issues representing anyone anywhere. So we are, as I call it, the tax professionals. So that's it. I've given my elevator speech.
Well, have I got an unfunded liability for you? We're going to remember you said that. Vice Mayor.
Alrighty, this week I'm going to start off with chamber events. I missed a couple ribbon cuttings the last couple of weeks because they planned them on council meetings, and we had some other special meetings, so I missed out on a couple of those. But I attended the Ambassador Spring Social. All the ambassadors of the chamber all got together at Pete's Restaurant and Brewery. Had a fun time, met new people, bringing new businesses into the chamber every day. It's a good time. I attended the Business After Hours at Millennium Entertainment. Also, I attended the 20-year milestone for First Five Yuba. And I attended at the Yuba County Library in Marysville. The first 5 is to help children from kindergarten to 5th grade with books, and they give a book a month to a child up to the age of 5 years old. So that's a wonderful thing. Meetings, attended the Regional Housing Authority meeting. Well, I had to laugh on that. Yeah, there you go, huh? No money. Attended the Housing Authority's Build Better Partnerships. We're doing big things. We're getting some affordable housing in the Penn Valley area, and also another addition in Live Oak. And we're hoping to get that building built here on Miles Drive here in Yuba City sometime in the very near future. Attended the Homeless Consortium meeting. We attended the Economic Development meeting. We sworn in our 2 new Economic Development Commissioners. And then also I attended the Bi-County Homeless Service Regional Team meeting. That's where all the jurisdictions, we all meet in a room and group and talk, and we're all working together as one. We got a plan. We just did the count for the homeless in the community, both sides of the river. We are up to 1,700 homeless folks in the community, and it's broken down into ages from 0 to 99. And there's children out there that we need to find housing for them and get them out of the river bottoms. Attended the Community Memorial Museum. I'm on the board of directors there, museum. They are going through a interior remodel. We're going to have our grand opening here next month in May, and it's going to be brand new inside. It's new flooring, all new paint. It hasn't been done since the early 80s, so it's all new. It's going to be a great time. The mayor and myself, we attended Yuba City Police Department Citizen Group Awards meeting. Our citizens group for the police department, this year for 2018, they volunteered 5,920 hours, and it was the savings of the city of $135,902. So thank you for the citizens group for volunteering and helping the city on that. For community events, the mayor and myself, we went down to the Downtown Association's first Thursday. We had the ceremony for the piano at Justin's. I'll let the mayor speak on that a little bit more. I attended the Sutter and Yuba County Victims Service 28th Annual Candlelight Vigil in honor of the Victims' Rights Week, and it's all month. And then also with Council Member Boomgarden, I attended the Comcast grand opening. They have a brand new 3,000 square foot building, all state of the art, and technology is getting bigger and better. They're going from 5G, and they were sitting there talking to us that within the next near future year, they're going to be 10G. So that's what they were telling us. So other than that, that's it for me. Thank you.
All right. Last but not least, the 2 committees I attended the last 2 weeks were the Policy and Innovation Subcommittee I belong to as a part of SACOG down in Sacramento. There was a long discussion about that, also a preparatory meeting for our events in Washington, D.C. to focus our efforts when we speak with our legislators back there. The discussion is continue a 19% GHG reduction. That we're staring down the barrel of that big challenge. There's 3 points that we've identified regionally, and that is, and one thing that will affect us the most is number 1, which is infill projects. We're trying to really focus on that. I think it's a really good thing. We've already reduced impact fees by 50% in that regard, but I think that's a very important focus for to play our role. Number 2 is travel options, which would include micro transit. If you're not familiar with that, basically it's Uber, but it's a bulk Uber in a van. They'll go door to door, but you're going to have multiple people riding along with you as they go along. A super shuttle. And then buses, which we, of course, have. And then the electric vehicle development. They're working regionally again to try to enhance and increase the amount of electric vehicles on the road out there, primarily because reduction in emissions and increased efficiency. The other one would be Sabufka. This meeting was rather short. I think we were done in 15 minutes 20 minutes, a lot of routine business and, of course, a personnel matter. Not of course, but we also had a closed session regarding a personnel matter, a positive one. And then just in general, I had the honor of attending a badge pinning for the fire department. We have hired several new firemen. We got to participate and welcome them to our family. I was able to attend, and thank you for the invitation, Diana, for the breakfast with the city manager for several employees in Public Works. The piano grand openings, we have one on D Street, one on Yuba City, or excuse me, on Plymouth Street. And that's just part of my role on the Yuba City Arts Board, where we had the idea of putting music in public places. So we had a couple donated, and there's two of them, one on either side of the river, that are alive and well. So Elaine, I expect to see you over there doing your thing. I got the top hat for you. I forgot to give it back to you, sorry. Of course, a lot of time spent gearing up for budget discussions, which begin tomorrow. I spoke to the Seroptimists regarding our launch program, which is the youth mentorship program I mentioned before. I also did a radio interview on 103.1, tried to promote that program, trying to get some mentors on board. We have, I believe it's 18 that Yuba City Unified have identified from Gray Avenue School. Most of them are female, so if we need female mentors, please see me or get on our website and we'll take care of that for more information. It's going to be a good thing for our kids. As Vice Mayor said, it was a pleasure to attend the pinning ceremony for the volunteers, celebrating the number of hours they've donated to our city. What a great group, very enthusiastic. They came to a meeting. They weren't even working, but they're all in uniform, so maybe they might require that, but that shows some dedication for those folks. Very good group of, I don't know if they're senior volunteers. There's a couple people that looked pretty young. Maybe that's because I'm getting old, but probably is. Again, I attended the Economic Development Commission meeting, and we swore in two of our members, and we basically attended that to explain to them the changes we have. We've talked about that tonight on board, just to maintain communication with those folks. Also attended the Boy Scouts of America Push Dinner, honoring this year Jackie Silman from Ecology. Of course, well deserving of that award. She's very active in our community. And if I remember correctly, they raised in one night over almost $50,000 for the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
They're Boy Scout staff.
Scouting?
Yeah.
It's both now. I'm not sure what the term is. I apologize for that. But $48,000 plus in one evening was pretty dang good. So good for them. And then the Playzium Touch a Truck event, we had our street sweeper there, which is a pretty cool thing. And those folks, I kind of got caught off guard on how successful that was. They really it was wall-to-wall people, wall-to-wall trucks of every imaginable shape and size, and the kids really had a good time and enjoyed it. So very successful, and congratulations to them. Other than that, I think we are good to go, and unless we have anything else, we are adjourned
Close this on the
in honor. Just
gotta indulge them.
what's the acronym again?
Enrolled agent.
Enrolled agent. EA. We're tired. Okay, we are adjourning in honor and respect of every EA across the country who survived tax season. All right.